Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. Yeah, I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. You take the west, I'll take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. Yeah, I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the prize. Man so tough, but mans keep walking. Yeah, just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome. Yeah, hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch me, please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
I want to ask all of you, as this Bill Belichick to North Carolina thing becomes more and more real, and I'm sitting here trying to think of times that we've done anything like this. We argue all the time about whether the college guy could make it work in the pros. We have not had everything turned so upside down that the greatest football coach any of us have ever heard of now doesn't get work in the NFL and wants to call his own dictator terms at North Carolina in such a way that he's being this brazen about the professionalism when he says, quote, let me put this in capital letters. If I was in a college program, if the college program would be a pipeline to the NFL for the players that had the ability to play in the NFL, it would be a professional program. Training, nutrition, scheme, coaching, techniques that would transfer to the NFL. It would be an NFL program at a college level and an education that would get the players ready for their career after football. It would be geared toward developing the player, time management, discipline structure, all that. That would be life skills regardless of whether they were in the NFL or somewhere in business. I feel very confident that I have the contacts in the NFL to pave the way for those players that would have the ability to compete in the NFL. They would be ready for it. I have no doubt about that. He said this to Pat McAfee. This is absolutely him recruiting already. Like he's saying, I'm going to be Saban. Like, you know how Saban got people to the pros? That's what I'm going to be. Never mind, like, yeah, okay, education, college, but I'm going to be pipeline to high school kid. You want to know how to get to the pros? Who knows better than I? How to get you to the pros. He's already in recruiting mode, right, while I still want to learn whether this is a real thing that he's negotiating to get his son to replace him.
I mean, Dan, the reports are he sat down with the people in charge of making this hire for 5 hours, pitching his ideas to North Carolina. I don't think he does that unless he's taking it seriously.
But saying this publicly, right here,
yeah,
the last year of Belichick's life, if I'm Belichick, I'm deeply insulted by the sport I love. Insulted that no one will give me a job with what I've done in that league, and now I've got to go to North Carolina to negotiate something that's a minor league job while saying, a minor league compared to the pros, the NFL pros,
right,
while saying out loud the thing of, I'm worthy and here's why I'm worthy. Here's why I'm better than all the other college coaches. But I want to ask you guys from a practical perspective, when has this happened before? Where a coach, I mean, of this magnitude, there aren't many, but just a pro coach is taking a job that's just, it's not one of the best jobs in college football. It's a good job, but it's not one of the best jobs in college football. The idea that Belichick is available to this school, wants to go to this school, and is out here saying out loud to recruits already, this is what I offer if you go to North Carolina. I've got a better chance of getting you to real money and professionalism than anybody else that is working in the sport.
But is he right, though? Is he right, though? I think that a myriad number of teams at the top level of college football are already what he's saying. Look at how many players Georgia has in the NFL right now. Ohio State, Alabama, all the top programs do what he's saying. And my question is, everything is about recruiting in the portal now. Does the Belichick name wow kids who are 18 or 20 years old? Does a guy that age really, really impress people he's after as opposed to
wows their parents the same way Dion does.
okay.
But Greg,
that's
if he
possible.
has the ability, and I believe that he does, and he has the connections, and I believe that he does, to get kids to the NFL, that's what they care about, right?
Right. But doesn't every top program offer that same pipeline?
But we were just talking about in the NFL how he just doesn't connect with players anymore, and now he's going to go to a younger demographic. Look at all the successful coaches. I know there are outlier old guys, but it's a lot of Dan Lannings. And it's just, it's flashy, but I just feel like 1 year into like a mediocre season with North Carolina, and we're already doing the same conversations about he's just not connecting with these young guys.
But college, you're able to coach them and talk to them in a way that you can't in the pros because all those guys make so much money. Like, the hell out of here. Like, I mean, they make money in college now, but I'm just saying you still are able to coach college kids harder than you coach pros because at the end of the day, a bunch of them are kids like a year or so removed from high school. And when you walk into those doors, that's one of the things about what Dan is talking about, pro coaches versus college coaches, is that pro coaches sit back and watch college and be like, most of y'all can't coach. That's how pro coaches think about college. Most of you guys can't coach. All you do is recruit and you do rah-rah stuff. So imagine Belichick saying, me with my football IQ, and then add on to that, I don't have to worry about feelings as much as I do at the NFL level.
But you do now, right? Because, like, if you don't like it, you can leave in a year. Like, no one's tied into being part of any team anymore for any extended period of time. And even if you do like him, if someone comes with more money, you can go. So, like, you do have to manage the feeling almost more so than the NFL, where NFL, you're bound by contracts. Like, they can leave 1 year to the next if they don't like how he's coaching them.
He will be more powerless in college than at any time in the college experience a coach has been powerless. And he was able to be the last of the dinosaurs who ran the professional outfit at the highest level in a dictator way that didn't matter whether he connected with the players or not. Charlie Weiss, his disciple, a lot of coaches never forgave him for appearing at Notre Dame and saying at the first press conference, I've got a significant schematic advantage over my other coaches. We've got to assume that every single game that North Carolina will play with this as the coach, they have a significant coaching advantage, correct? We're going to agree on the front end that whatever it is they bring into the building, the moment it arrives, a leadership and coaching advantage, they will have the biggest one in the sport, correct? Will we agree on that, or do we not agree on that?
I'll give you defensively. I mean, he might bring in the guy with the pencil to run his offense again.
Patricia,
Yeah.
the guy with the pencil.
Yeah.
Matt
you knew who I
Patricia,
meant.
that's the kind of executive
As soon as I
producing
said
expertise
that,
I need.
you said the name.
Well,
I knew exactly who I meant.
I do love building out his coaching staff because I have Teddy Bruschi coaching linebackers at UNC. I mean,
Well, Patricia will go with him, right? Like, Patricia's producing him right now, I'm pretty sure. Like, I think Patricia's doing a lot of his production for him for all of his television appearances.
That's great.
Like his research. No, I mean, it's not uncommon. Adam Gase does that for the Mannings. I don't know if that's a secret, but Adam Gase works on the Manning cast doing research.
Wow. I think two things about Belichick are fair to say. Number one, he didn't win without Tom Brady before in Cleveland, and he didn't win without Tom Brady after in New England. The second point I would make is that Bill Belichick is about 2 seasons, maybe 3, from breaking the all-time record for most NFL coaching victories. If you don't think Bill Belichick would rather coach in the NFL, you're crazy. And if he ends up in North Carolina, I guarantee you he has a contract that has an out clause where he can leave in the middle of a game if he wants to, if he has an offer from the NFL.
So, Greg, don't you think part of this is a message to the NFL? Like, hey, if you want me, come get me right now.
I think
because I'm dead serious about taking this job.
Absolutely.
Right.
100%.
Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Did you know that Adam Gase was a researcher on the Manning cast? I also saw, in honor of what I thought was a rare thing, Anderson Cooper having a name that his first name is also a last name and his last name is also a first name. And I was saying that that is a rare thing. But it's also true of Matt Patricia. Matt Patricia's first name is first name and a last name, and his last name is a first name and a last name.
Yeah.
But his first name can't be a last name. There's not many Matts.
No, I've
There's
never
not like
met
a
a Mr.
Greg
Matt.
Yeah.
Right, his
Or
first name is a
Matthews.
first name. His last name is a first name.
Austin Matthews.
And a last
So
name.
there are no Matts. There are no last name in the history of sports. We have never had running around out there someone who's just simply named
No.
Matt on the last name. No,
Al,
All right.
Al, Matt. No, it just doesn't exist. But Matt Patricia's first name probably is Matthew. So technically, I think you're
Okay.
right.
There's nobody named Matthew with a last name. Matthews with an S.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, Eddie
Matthews,
Matthews.
singular?
Yeah.
No.
Totally
No,
different.
no, I think there's singular Matthew
Name
last
one.
names. You know, I can't offhand, but that doesn't mean there
Al
aren't.
Matthews.
Not going to take a quiz.
I mean, just like there's McDaniels and McDaniel. You know, there's Matthews and Matthew.
but we
Right.
can name McDaniel. We
Travis
can't name
Matthew.
any-
There
How
you
about
go.
that?
Thank you.
Boom.
The honey badger.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Can we do
Name
something here? David Samson is roaming and patrolling the premises here, and he's got more Juan Soto stuff. A lot of people appeared yesterday for his Juan Soto stuff, and we did not get too much of his Juan Soto stuff. Right now, he's in another room preparing for a game show we're going to debut today, and I want to ask you guys, the premise will be fairly obvious, but I want to ask you guys which is the better sound to start this with. Should we call it this? Should we call it? Is it human? Is it human, or should we call it this right here? Is he human? What should be the name of the game? Should it be Is It Human or Is He Human?
I got to say, I think we got to play the game first, and after the game is over, we realize
Great
whether
point.
it's an it or a he.
Yeah.
So how am I supposed to play the opening imaging if we don't know which one
At
we're
the
going
end,
with?
he's saying once we're done with it, we'll determine it, which is how Metal Lark does things.
I think there's another obvious alternative, which
Well, we don't have us all yelling.
okay,
that
if
one.
you want to include females, women as well, it should be Are They Human?
Right.
Okay, but
know.
we're playing it with just David Samson. It's
Oh.
just him. And so now, unless you've made him transgender, Are They Human doesn't really work.
Okay,
It's
how
not-
about Is He Human?
Right.
I don't want to play the pronoun game with you. I'm just doing he or it. Those are your choices. Not
Okay.
surprising to me that the face rubber would go off the board. That's what he does.
I go it.
I think Is It Human is better, but we're going to get to that game show in a second. Is David Samson available right now, Chris, to just get bonus Soto stuff? I want to get all the things that we got wrong yesterday on Soto. I think at one point I accidentally made him a right-handed hitter. So David Samson was being bothered that he wasn't allowed to speak during our segment because he had more and better information than we did. Is he available right now?
He's
Chris
about
Cody?
to be. I'm being told very shortly. So keep filling.
Okay, thank you. That would have been better to have prepared at the start of the show because, you know, we start pretty much at 9 o'clock every
David
day.
does a show right up until
Right,
8:50.
right, and it
so.
ends at 8:50. Yes, 10 minutes before we start, so he should be ready.
I want to go back.
It should be ready.
Well said.
It's an it. It's got to be, is it human, right? We've spent years saying he's a robot, he's all wires and all that. He's not a he. He's an it. Is it human? That's my vote.
Okay, so we will get to that game in a second, but I don't see that David, I see him in the preview, but I don't see that he's got his headset on. I don't know if he can hear me or not. So, David, just tell me right now, getting started, tell me what it is that we got wrong yesterday on Juan Soto. What new information has become available in the last 24 hours that makes this even more interesting than it was yesterday that he's going to the Mets?
Oh, there are some tremendous excuses going on now between teams. Let's start with the Yankees. Word has leaked out that it wasn't about the $760 million. That's not the reason why Soto left the Yankees. It's because he was unhappy with the family room because his people got stopped by security. And on top of that, he wanted a luxury suite, and the Yankees wouldn't give him one without him paying for it.
Whoa.
Can you imagine that? That Juan Soto couldn't buy a luxury suite with $760 million. Guess what? It's happened to me before. Here's what you do. You raise your offer, and you make the player buy the suite so you can tell Aaron Judge and Derek Jeter that we stuck to our principles, that we didn't give a suite to Juan Soto. He bought one. I don't know why the Yankees didn't do that. As for the family room, what a crock of crap. There's security. If you don't have a credential, you don't get through. You're telling me that Juan Soto was so upset by a family room issue that he chose to leave the Yankees? It's a bunch of excuse-making in order to try to sully Soto. And I don't think we should be sullying him. We should be celebrating that right-handed hitter.
What else did we get wrong yesterday? What in our analysis was incorrect to you while we didn't let you talk?
Not human.
I'm definitely not. I'm a he. So that's the game. And I was ready the whole time, Dan. Just the fact that you couldn't see or hear, I was ready to play. Whatever it is that you want to do, that Chris Cody brought to me in the middle of a live show and wondered why I hadn't responded. And then you texted me saying, I think your show's over. You ought to be responding now. I've been here waiting.
Okay, answer my question, please. You don't even remember it, do you?
I know what your
You're too
question was.
busy
What else did we
bitching
miss in
over
our
there.
great analysis of yesterday's show
What did we get
where it was
wrong?
all spent on college football? Here's what you got wrong, is why aren't we spending the time celebrating, A, what the Mets are doing, and thinking, are they going to spend the money on Pete Alonso? And you started to let me talk, and then you went past it, and David Stearns met the media yesterday night and confirmed it, that they may go after Pete Alonso because he's gotten some big hits for the Mets. Do you know what that's code for? We're not getting Pete Alonso. Because if you were, you would not present it as, oh, that's a player we'd be interested in because he has had some good hits for us. You would say, we're going to get Pete Alonso because we want him to protect the great Juan Soto. But I would look for the Mets to bring in a pitcher.
What other reporting over the last 24 hours has gotten your attention? How much of your show today, Nothing Personal, did you devote to the Soto aftermath?
About the first 26 minutes, Dan, there were a lot of teams during the winter meetings who were talking. So what we did is we went around to our top markets. Nothing Personal, there's a breakdown of who's listening to the show, and we made sure we hit on those cities. So we talked about the Cubs and White Sox because we're pretty big in Chicago. We talked about the Cardinals. One of our top 10 cities is St. Louis. We talked about New York, both Yankees and Mets. And, of course, you got to work in some Dodgers and some Bill Belichick to end the show because everybody likes talking anything Patriots related.
I really wasn't looking for a rundown of your show. I was looking
He
for
really
what-
overthinks this thing.
I was looking for what Soto information you have that is new because people are still talking about Soto. I don't want you to review or preview the show you did on Nothing Personal already that we were very busy interrupting, evidently.
No one cares about your top market.
Yeah, I mean, no one cares about that. In fact, you know what? Just turn his microphone off. I'm going to keep it in here
You
for a
wanted
while.
to go to
No,
him.
I did want to go to him. I wanted a specific thing from him, not what his top markets were on Nothing Personal.
We're very big in Chicago.
I don't care where he's very big. I was asking him a question about Soto, not his strategic laser-like focus on getting more listeners in Chicago. I don't care about his podcast and content strategy. I just cared about talking about Juan Soto. Lock him back up in that room. We'll come back to him in a second. The thing I wanted to talk with Amin about here, Stugotz, because there are some stats coming out. I don't know how interested he's been in the evolution of the Miami Heat that have Bam Adebayo struggling with finding his role, but Tyler Hero having no such issues. He is playing all-star basketball. The numbers he's putting up, okay? When you look at 24, 5, and 5 and 9 threes a game, it's Luka, it's Tatum, it's LaMelo, and Tyler's the only one shooting over 40% from three on all of those. Like, he's having an all-star season, and I want to revisit what it is that I was talking about a long time ago as I watched Portland boot off its own court, losing at home by 40 to Utah. They could have used Tyler Hero, evidently, and everyone's mocking me about what Tyler Hero is because I'm saying I don't think there's a lot of difference between Hero and Maxey. And these numbers... are they not going to put Hero in the All-Star game if he stays healthy above Maxey? Like, is he not going to be viewed as a player whose numbers are better than Maxey? When Maxey's asked to carry the team without Joel and without Paul George, you see a higher usage rate and a less efficient player. Tyler Hero hasn't been healthy, and he is the third player on this team, but there's clearly an evolution offensively, both in the game and the way the Heat are doing things, that it seems to me, Amin, is pushing Bam off to the side when they need Bam to also be an all-star. They can't have Bam doing the small offensive games, but they need all of the stuff Bam does defensively. So there's a change in the way the Heat are doing business, because the way they were doing it with these players against the Celtics was not going to work. So they're going through Hero more than they're going through Bam now.
The way they were doing it against the Celtics wasn't working.
When Hero was more obviously the third option, and we were going 1, 2, 3 with Hero as the third option, and now that's changed a little in just the way they're doing business. All of it is meant to evolve with what it is that they have. Otherwise, they've got to change it. They've got to change the pieces if they don't get more out of the pieces they have.
Yes, that last sentence, absolutely. To say it wasn't working against the Celtics, I kind of disagree. They beat the Celtics.
I'm just saying what
times.
happened in the bubble at the rim, the difference between these teams was at the rim, Tatum against Bam. That's no longer the difference between these teams. There's a gulf between these teams now.
But to say that it didn't work, I think, is an incorrect statement. That's all I'm pointing out. I don't think it didn't work. I think it worked. And matter of fact, they met the Celtics, 3 times in the conference finals and beat them twice. Some would say what the Celtics was doing wasn't working against Miami, but that's neither here nor there. The point is what you're saying is that the dynamics have changed, and I think part of that is, first of all, the ceiling of the team is much higher when Bam is your best player. The problem is, how long are they going to have to wait for Bam to play like he's their best player? And what I mean by that is there's an assertiveness you have to be in order to be the best player. 20 years ago, 25 years ago, there was a discussion, who's the best power forward in the game? And these were the names people said and did not bat an eye. Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, Chris Webber, Dirk Nowitzki, Rasheed Wallace. Rasheed Wallace was in that list. Everyone, all those guys knew it. Everyone around the league knew it. Rasheed Wallace is one of the 5 best power forwards in the game right now.
He was the basketball player's basketball player.
Absolutely.
People loved his game.
But almost to a fault. When I say Rasheed Wallace, to the casual person, it's like, oh, it's because he was always getting technical fouls and stuff. That's not what Rasheed Wallace is undoing, or not even undoing. It's just what limited him. What limited him was he was the basketball player's basketball player. He wanted to be one of the guys. He had the talent, the skill, the IQ to be an absolute monster. And he's like, wait. The basketball is a 5-man game, and I just want to set screens, and I just want to be one of the guys and average about 16 points a game. And that's what he did. And when he got to Detroit, it was exactly what they needed. But Rasheed Wallace, talent-wise, skill-wise, IQ-wise, was every bit the equal of Tim Duncan and Kevin Garnett. They never got at any point that monster, to that selfishness of like, I don't give a damn, give me the ball, get out of my way. 25 years later, I look at Bam Adebayo and I think the same thing. I'm like, man, when he turns into a jackhole, because we can't say the other word, when he turns into a real jackhole.
I feel like we can say the other
word. No, we
word.
can't. We're on Peacock.
You don't feel like we can.
You don't want Peacock next to the jackhole.
Let's just not.
All right. So if Bam were to unlock that and turn into a real selfish MF, like, give me the damn ball, get out of my way. I'm not settling for jump shots. I'm not just pitching it back out. I am the offense. That's when the Heat, and that's the progression we've been waiting for the last 3 years, where Jimmy said, well, this is Bam's team. That was the progression we're waiting for. Up in Cleveland, they've got a guy, Evan Mobley, where they're doing the same thing. Like, he's a really talented, smart player, tough, great defensive player, but he hasn't taken that leap, and they need that leap in order to get to where they really want to be.
You saw with Cleveland the other night when they came to Miami. They had lost only 3 times this year. Mobley plays 12 minutes. They lose against Miami immediately, when Miami hasn't beaten a team of pedigree all season before this, unless you consider the Lakers and whatever they brought down here to be something of pedigree. But your contention on where it is that Hero is in his evolution, and if I put him next to Maxey and say to you, these 2 players are pretty similar, are they not? You disagree with that?
I mean, if you ask me, gun to my head, which is one of my favorite games. Stugotz, you like gun to my head, right?
Yeah, I taught it to you.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Gun to my head, Maxey or Hero, I'm taking Maxey, right? Because I've seen Maxey approximate the aggression and the scoring within success. What I've seen Hero is, hey, when I'm asking you to be part of a good team, you're down here. Now that we've kind of unleashed you and now it's everything about you, yes, your numbers are great. Team success, we're a middling team. So I don't know that. I think there's a trade-off for every player. How much of me can I be while still helping the team win? And if you're really good, a lot of times it's like, as good as I am, that's how good as the team is, and we keep going up. Like LeBron, Steph Curry, those guys, it's limitless. But for a lot of lesser players, there is a line where, okay, I could be even better. My numbers could be even stronger, but that's not going to help the team. We talked about this with Dwayne Wade during his last year when I was saying, look, I get you guys love him and everything, but that season turned into, how can we make Dwayne Wade still look dominant? And you can, but wins won't come along with it anymore.
Let's not make the Heat out to be a team that's only beaten the Cavaliers as their only signature win. They have beaten Minnesota. They have beaten the Dallas Mavericks. They've beaten some good teams.
All right, they're 12-10. They've lost some bad games this season. They've lost at home. They've lost to Milwaukee without Giannis.
Right.
But yes, thank you. You are right. Minnesota's just okay. Minnesota's a bit lost this year, but okay, fair enough.
The Heat are also out of the NBA Emirates Cup, so.
Well, Billy, you must be excited today because we have a guest from The Masked Singer joining us today.
But we haven't said who the guest is. We just said
we didn't spoil it. We just teased what's coming up later in the show. There was nothing spoiled other than a guest from The Masked Singer is going to join us.
It could be anybody. It could be Ken Jeong.
It could be, but when the guest comes on, if people aren't caught up and you say this person was on The Masked Singer.
We won't tell them that. We have multiple guests a day. It could be any guest. It could be Diana Rossini, who's not coming on today.
So it's not her.
I mean, I think there's a larger question in terms of the Heat. ESPN, which loves rankings, just ranked every team's core, every team's big three. And the Heat's, partly because of Butler's age, was ranked what I thought was stunningly low, like 19th. My question is, Jimmy, Bam, Tyler Hero, are you going to be anything but pretty good with that? Like, can you challenge for a championship? Don't they have to, blow this up? Trade Jimmy, do something to really restart this thing.
Is there anything adding on to that, Amin? Is there anything that they're doing offensively that you see in what it is, the evolution of this is, that makes it so that while Tyler Hero is this good, Bam's been the worst him we've seen? Bam has not been statistically the player that he's been the last 3 years. I'm confused sometimes when I'm watching, and he's doing next to nothing out there offensively, even though he's always great defensively. Are you seeing something in the structure that makes it so that they are making Tyler Hero, they're not making it so that Tyler Hero and Bam can both be all-stars at the same time?
He's initiating offense. Here, the ball is going through Hero, and Bam is kind of off to the side. And as a result, obviously, he's not getting the touches he was getting. He's not getting the opportunities he was getting before. But again, I think that also comes down to you had your chance, right? We've been waiting for you to come and seize these reins and say, "It's my team. F this. I'm gonna be Giannis's peer."
And Tyler's not waiting. He's not.
Well,
He's taking it.
This is an oversimplification, but it's also a math problem. Bam, you're not going to shoot threes? It's going to be mid-rangers? Okay, Tyler Hero, 9 threes a game. We're going to change the way that we're doing this offensively.
But Dan, he can take mid-ranges. If he were an excellent mid-range shooter, we wouldn't mind. The problem is he's an okay mid-range shooter, meaning he should take a couple a game, but everything for Bam should be around the basket. It should be dominant around the basket. And he's not. He's kind of reticent around there. And so what ends up happening is he settles for these mid-range jumpers, which he's good at, but not excellent at. And so that's an inefficient shot and not enough to carry an offense. Tell you what, how many people have the Miami Heat with a top 10 offense right now? They've got a top 10 offense in the league, right? But at the same time, we all look at it and we say, I don't think this is something that can be sustainable in terms of a deep playoff run.
I want to do a stat of the day here before we go back to David Samson that I found fairly shocking.
Start of the day, start of the day, it is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day, it is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day, it is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day, it is your start of the day.
This is from Matt Warren on Twitter. O.J. Simpson is a Pro Football Hall of Fame running back. He has 61 rushing touchdowns. Terrell Davis has 60. He's a Hall of Famer. Josh Allen is 28 years old. He's got 62 rushing touchdowns and 190 passing touchdowns and a couple of receiving touchdowns as well. That is crazy.
Yes.
I couldn't believe that. And here's a partial list of people that Josh Allen has more rushing touchdowns than. McCaffrey? Come on. Seriously? More than McCaffrey? Jamal Lewis? Herschel Walker? Warwick Dunn? Like these are great running backs, and Josh Allen casually, like if you're winning with in a salary cap sport in the margins with the money, and you've got a guy who's also your running back when he's your quarterback, and you're paying one position to get 2 positions worth of productivity, you change the architecture of your team when you can do that. Lamar Jackson, when you can build around Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, you can save all sorts of money on running back. I don't know. Chris Cody said yesterday of the Bills, they don't stop anyone running the ball, so that Detroit game is going to be super interesting because Detroit's a running team. I know people think of them as Jared Goff and spread the offense around in 300-yard passing games, but they're a rushing team. They don't throw the ball in the top half of the league. They're in the bottom half of the league throwing the football.
To your point with the Bills and Josh Allen rushing, James Cook, who is their primary back, is making just over $1 million this year. Like, you're right. Like that. It definitely changes how you put together your roster from that standpoint when you have a guy who is both your quarterback and your primary ball handler in terms of being a running back. Like, that's insane, but there's one thing that you left off Josh Allen's resume, and it's a ring. And I fear that because he's playing at the same time as Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and he's being coached by that lousy coach in Buffalo, I believe that Josh Allen might be one of those guys who never gets a ring because Patrick Mahomes is playing at the same time.
All right, but what I did say is 28 years old. He's got 10 more years to pile up those numbers. I make fun of Bill Polian for not knowing that Lamar Jackson was a quarterback. I will remind you that I said Josh Allen will be terrible forever at quarterback. That's some bad analysis right there. Once I saw him in a playoff game throw into double coverage deep onto a fullback, I'm like, that can't win in the NFL. You can't, in a playoff game, throw 40 yards downfield to a double-covered fullback.
In Stugotz's defense to your 28 years old for Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes 29 years old.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you do think that Patrick Mahomes is going to hog all the championships and prevent Josh, then he could do so. They're on the same timeline. I don't think that's going to happen, but they're on the same timeline.
It seems in terms of body, though, just watching the games and the way that the Chiefs have to win, you tell me that Mahomes isn't aging faster than Josh Allen is just physically.
What do you say? I don't agree with that.
He's moving slower. He's moving slower through your secondary than he used to. Josh Allen seems to be gathering steam.
Speaking of the Chiefs, did you guys see Dylan Raiola?
Oh my God.
At the Chiefs game?
Yeah, it's an embarrassment.
An embarrassment? Yeah. I thought you would love this. So Dylan Raiola, the college quarterback who looks suspiciously like
Mahomes,
like Mahomes.
By choice,
and
by the way.
acts like him.
Yes.
He is whatever that movie was in the '90s, Single White Female.
Yeah.
He is married a black quarterback. Yes.
Wow.
So I loved it when Nebraska was 3-0, 4-0, but you can't continue with the act when you're that bad.
Stugotz, he doesn't know if this is the peak of his life right now. You've got to milk. I thought you would understand this more than anyone. You got to milk this thing for everything it's worth. Absolutely go to Chiefs games and sign autographs, kid. Knock yourself out.
Well, for those of you who don't know who he is, he's Nebraska's quarterback. He also cosplays as Patrick Mahomes on his free time. He dresses like him. He wears the same sunglasses, gets the same haircut. Earlier in the season when Nebraska was good, he was doing the same celebration, the same warm-up routine. He was doing everything to be Patrick Mahomes. And then Nebraska kind of stunk. And then he disappeared for a while until Sunday, for whatever reason, where Dylan Raiola, who plays for Nebraska and seemingly has no connection to the Kansas City Chiefs whatsoever, was at the Chiefs game on the field signing autographs for fans.
Also wears the same number, by the way.
Same number, too, yeah.
Well, and is physically trying to look like him.
Right.
Like
Yes.
it
And act like
is
him, yeah.
blatant copycatting to get sort of the the fame that one gets spilling over the side of whatever it is that Patrick Mahomes has in fame. He's trying to mimic him.
It's the old meme. We've got Patrick Mahomes at home. Patrick Mahomes at home is Dylan Raiola.
It's honestly like a worse job of Chiefs security than it is of Yankees security, keeping Juan Soto's family away from like the free food or whatever. Like the fact that they let Dylan Raiola anywhere near Patrick Mahomes is kind of insane.
So he just went to the Chiefs game to sign autographs as the guy who looks like the Chiefs quarterback?
Okay, but here's the thing.
Signing him as Patrick.
Here's the thing, right? Is that there are people probably that thought that might have been Patrick Mahomes and they were getting his autograph.
Right.
He's signing Chiefs fan gear. Like, he's signing the Chiefs logo. He's signing Chiefs T-shirts. Like, people think that that's him.
I thought we stopped with autographs in general. I thought the autograph had been replaced by the selfie. But let's put up real quick an accusation that's getting all over the country right now. You got people accusing Stugotz of not signing his own book after promising people he was going to sell them a copy of his own book. And the signature looks like a stamp of some sort.
I signed him, man.
There are
Fine point
accusations.
Sharpie.
It's a damn fine marker. That's not fine point.
That's not a fine point.
No, it is a fine point. Yeah. I bought 10 packs of them. Fine point Sharpie right there.
That's a thick fine point right there.
Okay, but is that a real signature? Because it looked like a stamp, and I'm asking you
It's
because
a real
some people
signature.
are wondering whether it's a real signature or not.
It is a real signature. I got these inserts in the mail. There were thousands of them, and so I appreciate everyone buying the book. It was a pre-order deal. I signed every single one of them and sent them back to Random House.
Raise your hand if you're surprised that the S isn't backwards in Stugotz.
Or a money sign. It should just be, the S should be a money sign. He needs to change his signature.
That should be the S in Soto's last name. I mean, seriously, if he doesn't do that, you got to sink into being a billionaire,
Yes.
don't you?
Yep.
I mean,
that's a good idea.
Not the bouncer. Oh, he's a quarter away from being. He's 3/4 of the way. Not to jump around too much. But did you guys see that Nick Turturro has another video about Juan Soto?
no way.
Well, let's see the original Nick Turturro video to cleanse the palate here and just end with Samson and Soto talk. This was just great. I've got to think that John Turturro is terribly embarrassed by all of this.
Hey, Juan Soto, I got 2 words for you. F you. That's right. F you and the horse you rode in on. And the cavalry behind you. That's right, motherfucker. Yeah, I'm taking it personal. We gave you our love. We gave you our heart and soul. It wasn't enough. You turned your cap around after the World Series. I saw that move. 700 million, 730. Yeah, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. Guaranteed years, it wasn't enough. You don't even choose the Dodgers. You don't even choose the Dodgers. You go off Broadway to the Mets. You don't want to be on Broadway, and you don't want to be Judge's guy. You don't want to be Judge's partner. Oh, that's right, Judge. Now it's your team. That's it. Let's stick it up his fucking ass. That's right. Let's go out. Let's get Burns, Fried, Bregman. Let's Teoscar. I don't give a Now we're not around. Take those grungy, whatever those. Oh, those stupid Mets.
A rational human being who keeps sports in perspective.
I love the chucking of the bat at the
It
end
sounds so good. Can you guys get me video? Can you just freeze frame the most rabidly crazed that he looks at any time? Just freeze frame it for me because it is rabid rage. He's got a new video out. Let's see what else Nick Turturro is doing that is doing on video that I'm sure embarrasses his brother John Turturro.
All right, I had some time to think about this, kind of let it settle in. You know, I understand it's a business. I do. I understand. At the end of the day, it's like show business. But you know what? You wanted to be a Yankee. You wanted to be part of this pinstripe tradition. You got to wear it. You got to go to the World Series. Yes, you helped, even though you can't catch a fly ball whatever. But we took you in. And what, you were a little butthurt over some personal disgruntled? It happens. You didn't want to be second fiddle. You didn't want to play next to Judge because it's Judge. This is the Yankees. Judge came up a Yankee. He's the captain. That's what you signed up for. Reggie came here. Thurman was the captain. But Reggie helps get us over the top. You were part of something here. Yeah. And you shun us. You shun us. It's like Michael Corleone. All right? Michael Corleone, you went out with him. And you shunned him for Fredo. You left for Fredo. You're a joke, my friend. And any other Yankee fan that's congratulating him on his contract, you're soft, brother. You're soft. You come here and then you turn and you go to the dumps of Queens, even though I'm from Queens, they're not the Bronx, they're not the Yankees, they never will be the Yankees. I don't give a about Stevie Cohen's money. I don't care if he's got more money than God. He ain't ever going to be the Yankees.
I don't like Nick and Son. I mean, I don't like when he has time to think about stuff.
Dan, you have John Turturro being ashamed. I've got John Turturro being the guy holding the camera.
Really?
Directing.
Huh.
This episode of the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is presented by Smirnoff. We do game days. Please drink responsibly. The Smirnoff Company, New York, New York.
Our thanks to Smirnoff and to DraftKings for putting together Sunday's event where we watched football with some of our fans. We will be doing more and more of that in coming years. I want to ask everyone here, when I give you this list from Matt Warren of people who have more or fewer rushing touchdowns than Josh Allen, and the list is O.J. Simpson, Herschel Walker, Terrell Davis, Jamal Lewis, LeGarrette Blount, Roger Craig, Tiki Barber, Chris Johnson, Arian Foster, Nick Chubb, McCaffrey. All of those names are surprising to you, no? Like, every last one of them is surprising, no?
Except LeGarrette Blount.
Yeah.
LeGarrette Blount scored like 20 touchdowns one season.
He did.
So
yeah.
did Raheem Mostert. I mean,
Led the NFL in touchdowns, I believe.
And McCaffrey's not that old. I mean, McCaffrey still has his time.
I feel like McCaffrey has led the league in touchdowns a couple of times. How does he have fewer rushing touchdowns than Josh Allen?
But he's been hurt a
He's
couple
hurt
of
all
years
the
as
time,
well, yeah. So Terrell Davis, not that surprising considering that injuries cut his career short. Otherwise, he'd be far ahead of Josh Allen. The one that really surprises me, shocks me, is O.J. Simpson. That's crazy.
Yeah, we're going to get to this game that I don't know what the name of, whether it's Is He Human or Is It Human?
So in 2016, LeGarrette Blount had 18 touchdowns. That is the only season he had double-digit touchdowns of his career.
Okay. Thank you for that. We will get to either Is It Human or Is He Human in a second. But Samson, give me the rest of the Soto stuff that we didn't get to yesterday because, and I've banned Mike Ryan today because college football has indeed hijacked this show for the last 8 days and we needed to talk about other stuff. And so Mike Ryan banned today and we've got more baseball and basketball and old guy presents and a shirt that's older than everybody who's here because we're trying to have some range today. Give me some more Soto stuff that we didn't get to.
Yeah, I just want to point out that when you do not get a player like Juan Soto, you have to start with a strategy. And Brian Cashman came out and wanted to compliment his owner for the effort that they made, how uncomfortable they were going to the heights they went to keep Soto. But when pressed about what's next, he basically did not hesitate by saying, we will improve the team. We just don't know exactly what that is. And there are still top-of-the-board free agents available with Corbin Burns and Max Fried. Even on the hitting side, Teoscar Hernandez is out there, Christian Walker. And will the Yankees reallocate the money? That's what everyone wants to know. But who would make Nick Turturro happy? And I'm going to tell you this right now, looking at his second video. His house is a damn mess. Look at the background of where he shot that video. That's not John Turturro directing. That's like a selfie showing that he hasn't put his clothes away like some sort of hoarder. So I believe that that sort of personality will never be satisfied because he doesn't even remember how he felt when Garrett Cole turned his hat around and put a Boris hat on after winning the World Series and then went to the Yankees from the Astros. So for me, Mr. Turturro is a little inconsistent, and I would dismiss his rantings.
You didn't need to judge his house. He doesn't look like a hoarder just because you're a neat freak.
Just a laundry room.
Like,
Right,
it's not
yeah.
fair what you're doing to him there.
Look at the counter space.
Yeah,
the
but
laundry room's in the background.
But you're a neat freak.
And David's right. Plus, Nick Turturro had a plant growing out of his head. David, I have one quick question. David, here's my question for you. Are you in a dungeon right now? Is there like someone on a rack being tortured just off camera?
It's a visual joke. It's better that way, quietly, without anyone mentioning it.
Okay.
Let's play our game show now because he's confused, but he doesn't know that Samson is just in the same room that he was in when we were doing press conference content from pretending it was from a Dolphin game with him.
Okay.
He thought Samson was joining us from a dungeon in New York. We tricked your father into thinking that Samson Samson is in a dungeon somewhere in New York as opposed to right here with us
That's
today.
Wait,
right.
he's here with us?
In fairness to Greg, it is jarring to see a plant growing out of someone's head. He's
Thank
thrown
you.
off by it. I
Yes,
mean, yes.
let's go out to David Samson, who now joins us clearly from Burbank, California, and a game show set because he has moved from the dungeon downstairs
Dad, you see
to
that?
the game show set where he and Jeremy are going to
magic.
play the game. Is it human or is he human? Let's see the sound that executive producer Chris Cody has selected.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to play
Is it human?
All right,
with
excellent.
David Samson.
Go ahead, Jeremy. How many questions do you have for David Samson? Take it away.
Dan, we have more than enough questions for David Samson. Up to 20 questions for David Samson about life and about love as we play a game of Is He Human with David Samson. David, your first question. A player on your team asks to miss some time for the birth of their first child, but you're in a September playoff race. What do you do?
Absolutely not. Have her induced on an off day, obviously.
Judges?
Yeah,
Not
that's
human.
Absurd. The Marlins are in a September playoff race. Get out of here. It's not human. Not human in any way. Question number two.
Now we're going to move over to the love category, David. David, what's the number of times in your life that you have felt loved? Judges?
Oh wow!
Oh,
Nothing.
he just
It's a moment of
Nothing?
silence.
stared blankly
Wait a minute.
ahead.
Wait a minute.
A moment of silence for those loved and lost.
You have never felt love?
Jeez.
Okay.
Well, this game's going great.
Wait a minute. You've never felt love? That can't be real. You've never felt love or felt loved?
There was that time in college, the first night of freshman year, when Valita Van Horn loved me. I
That's
thought.
made up.
That's not a real name.
That's all made up.
McGillicuddy.
The third question.
That is her
Jeremy.
name.
You're at grocery store checkout, David Samson, and they ask if you would like to round up for charity. What do you do?
Nope.
Oh no.
Judges?
David, you don't have to you could just be like you round up sometimes, David. Come on.
Listen, people know, so I'm not going to let you do this to me. I'm very charitable. But don't talk to me about the roundup. I'm not interested. I want to give charity, which I do, and raise money by all the things I do. I don't do the roundup.
Not the Bar and Davy either. David Samson, question number 4. What is the most emotional moment that you have had with one of your children?
The time that I do remember this actually.
Well said.
There was that time that the kids had when they got into college. Oh, no, that was a good one.
Oh, yeah.
Making it up.
College, good one. Judges?
Not human.
Yeah, no, that is human. That's human. What do you mean that's not
That's
human?
the
Just not
only time
believable.
when they're born. Nothing.
Those details.
No, that was a good one.
Touching.
Yeah. The responsibility of raising a child, I'm sure, was very exciting for David Samson and the mess.
When my first child was born, I remember leaving my wife then at the time in the hospital. I went back to my apartment and I basically looked at the doorman and said, I am screwed. And I went upstairs and I watched a movie. That is a true story. After my first daughter was born, I was so freaked out.
What movie?
Wait, two movies, Billy. But the first movie I watched was a movie about childhood called She's Having a Baby. And I remember this so well because I thought it would help inform me what to do. And I didn't know what to do. So I just never went back to the hospital until I was forced to.
That day?
It was that. She was born at 9:53 p.m.
David, real quick, how do you spell Valita Van Horn? Because I'm trying to Google her to ascertain whether this is a real person.
VELEEDAVANHORN. Maybe an E, maybe not. I get confused with Dave Van Horn, no relation.
What was the second movie you watched on the birth of your child? And did you have any positive feelings with the birth of your children, or was it all fear and responsibility?
It was all fear and responsibility, and I believe it was a Jenna Jameson movie.
Whoa.
Keep going, Jeremy.
I appreciate the follow-up questions from the judges. Here, David, You're on an airplane, and a couple asks if you will switch seats with one of them so they can sit together. What do you say?
Is it an equal exchange, I always say? Is it aisle for aisle or window for window?
Sure.
Must it be?
Judges?
Yeah, it must be.
Must it be?
Yeah.
Does it
I'll only
change
do
the
an even
answer?
switch.
That's
Because
it.
frankly, half the time when a couple says that, one of the parts of the couple doesn't actually want to sit with the other. So I'm being actually doing
That's
a
made-up
favor.
stat.
That's right.
That's a made-up
No,
stat.
I think he's right about that.
Half the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally
I don't know if it's
human.
half the time, but there are times where that person doesn't. They're thankful that you did not.
This
This
change
one's
seats.
human
Yes.
for me. This one's human for me.
It's human.
All right. What really? It's got to be an equal change. You will not. If someone asks you, you will not go window to aisle.
I will not go aisle to middle. That's for damn sure.
I'm pretty sure my dad one time denied a mother and a small child. We were traveling with like a big family trip, and like a mother and child asked you to switch, and you wouldn't do it.
It may have been that aisle situation. I'm beholden to the aisle. I won't give up my aisle. Now, I will go aisle for aisle. I'll do the even.
But it was like a lady and her young child. It
That's
wasn't
not
like
my fault.
Yeah, but he was going to get stuck in the middle seat, and that's not fair to Greg. You want to
Thank
sit
you.
next to your child? Buy a seat next to your child. How about that?
I got a
Yeah.
3-hour flight. I'm going to sit in the middle? Hell no.
Episode 2 of Is He Human, starring Greg Cody.
You know, that kind of thing.
An aisle for an aisle. I feel like Izzy should be the host of Is He Human. I feel
Yes.
like that would be the way.
Jesus.
Why did I come in today?
Is it?
Is it? Yeah, it's a fine.
Jeremy, keep
even do
going.
this right?
Keep going, Jeremy.
How many people do you trust, David?
It's a great question. It's hard to get my trust because all I am is disappointed. I used to trust Dan, and that has really fallen apart since I started at Metalark.
Same.
Well, you didn't. Did you know him well before?
No, but I trusted him.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Ruined my career.
Yeah, but
no,
you started
your
at a
career's
place.
just starting.
Don't be nice, David.
Standing. No, I don't trust many people because why would I set myself up to be disappointed? It's way better not to trust anyone, and then you feel good all the time.
Judges?
The answer's 0? You trust 0 people. The answer's 0.
Are you telling me that you trust anyone without verifying?
Yeah, I trust my wife that way. I trusted my brother that way, yes.
2-0 you.
Okay, so nothing for you.
You don't trust Jeff Conine?
I mean, David, Jeff Conine.
You own a bus together.
I love when you can't trust your partner. You got to verify.
The Niner.
All right. Thank you, Greg, for that contribution. We will come back to the game show that is sweeping the nation of David Samson and Jeremy, and it should be Izzy hosting that show, I feel like, just because Is He Human is absolutely a show that has legs here. Thank you, Stugotz.
You got it.
We are not done, Greg. We're still doing show. We got 25 minutes in the segment. That clock right there, it's been there for a long time. It helps keep you on track if you pay attention to it. It's big red numbers right there in front of your face. And we've got 24 and a half minutes left in this segment.
It did feel like an ending. The game show was
Thank
over.
you.
It did. It felt like an ending. I took my headsets off. I put them
Thank
back on
you.
quickly,
Thank
though.
you
I
very
did.
much.
All-time show moment right there. Greg just started getting up.
Just the clock is right there in front of him. It's placed
It's actually
there.
not in front of me. Stugotz is in front of me.
Okay.
You know, he should have a
Bingo.
clock on his head.
Right. Yeah.
Go ahead and
We tried that.
find the footage for me of how it is he just took his headset off while staring straight at the clock. Greg Cody is a bit angry today because I don't know, Chris, as I ask you this question, if there's anything professionally that gives your father more personal pride than his baseball Hall of Fame vote. And he is mad at the Veterans Committee for forsaking what it is was the writer recommendation on who should be in the Hall of Fame by putting a sick Dave Parker in and Dick Allen. He doesn't think those two should be in because they're going over the head of the sports writers who vote on the Hall of Fame, and they're saying, we don't care what your opinions are on this. We have Veterans Committee power to basically veto what Greg Cody thinks with his vote.
Right. That's exactly right. It used to be called the Veterans Committee. It's now called the Classic Era Committee for some reason. But they're usurping and disrespecting the vote of the BBWAA members, and I think there's like 270 of us. Like, it's a big group whose collective decision is if you get 75%, you're a Hall of Famer. If you get 74.9, maybe next year. And now this committee every year is letting in guys who were deemed not Hall of Famers back when they were actually on the ballot, not on this made up, age appropriate ballot, but right after they played. And to give you an example, keep in mind you got to get 75%. When Dick Allen was on the actual ballot, the most he ever got was 18.9%.
Wow.
Okay?
So not even close.
Not even close.
Right.
Dave Parker was a little closer. He got 24.5%. At some point, you got to trust the people who are actually doing the voting after somebody's career. Dave Parker hasn't had a hit in 20 years. He didn't get any better. And I'm not singling these two guys out because they're both borderline Hall of Famers. Maybe they should have gotten more votes in their time.
You are singling them out, though. They're the guys who got in who are making you angry.
Well, they're the guys who got in this week,
Right.
most recently.
But Greg wasn't alone. Like, a lot of people don't feel like, Dick Allen, Dave Parker should be in the Hall of Fame. And to have a next level of defense for those guys after the Hall of Fame voters have said, no, we don't think he's a Hall of Famer is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, I think it demeans the Hall of Fame to have your main voters overridden by this very small group. I think the Classic Era Committee, I think, has 7, 8 members. I could be off, but it's a very small number. And that when you have that few number, you're very susceptible to skullduggery. Like if there's a member of that committee, and you're Dave Parker, you go out there, and I'm not saying it happened, but
wait a minute, hold on a second, hold on.
Time to throw away all journalistic credibility and get reckless. Here is something we like to call reckless speculation.
You're good.
I think Joe Torre might be on the committee, as an example, okay? If Joe Torre has managed or played with somebody who is also under consideration, that's a conflict of interest.
So you're saying you're more qualified to vote on the Hall of Fame than Joe Torre?
Yeah. Yes, I am.
He is. He doesn't have the conflict.
I'm more independent.
You asked Michael and I.
Yeah, I'm interested in your opinion. I don't follow it necessarily, but I'm curious. If you don't want me to, I'll stop doing that. Yeah.
He gets so mad at me every time I do that.
It's so funny every time. The fact that he asks you guys for your Hall of Fame opinions, he does use your opinions because you watch more baseball than he does. Then he says, if you don't want my opinion, I won't ask anymore, because he's trying to bequeath upon you the same pride of Hall of Fame voting that he has, which you don't have because you don't respect anything your father hands down to you, including that shirt, which is going to be in his will.
Right. No, the shirt won't. Believe me. No, I don't. That kind
You're
of
taking
thing.
that to the grave, huh?
Yeah, I'm going to wear this.
We should bury him in it. We should bury him in just that shirt.
In the deck shoes.
I don't think,
Nothing in
Chris,
between.
I don't think your sons realize just how lucky they are. I would love if my dad had a Hall of Fame vote growing up and he would come home and ask me what I thought.
Yeah.
That is amazing,
Oh,
man.
no, I honestly take pride in it. I study
Good.
the names. I try to give him the best answers I can, but
Right.
I see he has a vote, so I'm thinking, oh, man, these votes that people have.
I take my vote very seriously, and you all can make fun of it all you want. When I say that I'm more qualified than Joe Torre, obviously I mean I'm more independent than Joe Torre.
That's not what I asked you. I asked you if you were more qualified, and then you said you were. And you are making the distinction, I'm less biased than Joe Torre.
I think independent thought is a big part of qualification. Okay, I pore over these names. Okay, I spend hours going over this Hall of Fame ballot, and I don't want to eliminate anybody who doesn't deserve to get in. So I take it very seriously. I don't just fill out the ballot willy-nilly in 20 minutes. I research it.
You're not
every
having any
player.
fun with this. You're taking this very
But
seriously.
it's an important
yeah.
job.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's been given. In Greg's defense, he's been a sports writer for like 40 years. It's not just like
Longer than that.
Some Tom, Dick, and Harry over here that they gave a random vote. He
Right.
didn't win a
That's
contest.
I take it very seriously.
You've mentioned that a few times now.
Okay.
Greg, now, let me ask you a question, because you've had a Baseball Hall of Fame vote now for what, like 8, 10 years
Yeah,
maybe?
a little more than that now, probably closer to 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
He got my vote, right?
No.
Well, it's
I
still
gave
up
up
for
my vote,
question.
and then all of a sudden
No,
he had
that's-
a vote. That's
I think
not
you
how that
sold your
worked.
vote, and then
Yeah.
I
Greg
did
got
sell
it.
my vote,
That's
but I
not
didn't get
true.
money for
You
it.
get a
That's-
baseball writer's vote when when you've covered a team or gone to teams' games for at least 10 years in a row.
That's you just have to attend one game for 10 years in a row.
Yes.
Really?
That's it?
Yes.
I should have a vote.
You have to stay the whole game.
I'm three times eligible for this now.
No one.
Stay the whole
This is my
game.
dad. Every baseball game we go to, around the seventh inning.
Yep.
I'm ready whenever you are.
Yeah.
Well,
You got that right.
Takes
if I'm
it
in
very
the,
seriously.
That long, huh?
If I'm
Very
in the
seriously.
stands, oh my God. Keep in mind, we're covering the Marlins, which is a hinterlands of baseball.
well, Greg, I have a question for you. So you, since you've only had your vote for, maybe a little bit over a decade, you probably didn't get an opportunity for Dave Parker to go into the Hall of Fame. Now, you might be someone who may have thought of voting him in. You didn't get an opportunity to. Now the Veterans Committee comes in and they put him in when you may have voted for him. Would you have voted for Dave Parker to go into the Hall of Fame?
I would have to do more research on what his career was. I know that there's a baseballreference.com, which I really respect, has black ink, gray ink on Hall of Fame standards, on somebody's Hall of Fame numbers, career numbers relative to Hall of Famers. And Dave Parker's close.
I love him as a player. Loved
was
him
great.
as a player in the 70s. I associate him with having the biggest arm in the game, being physically more menacing as a batter than just about anybody.
But you do have a committee that's comprised of former players. Greg Maddux is on this committee. Jack Morris is on this committee. Ryan Sandberg, Rhino is on the committee. Dan, they do have relationships with certain players.
Yeah.
It does seem odd that the writers, who aren't biased, are telling you, hey, this guy's not a Hall of
you say
Famer, and they're
not-
just putting you
they
in.
got their
Writers
own
aren't
biases,
biased?
too.
I would like to think the writers are less biased and don't have the relationships that the former players have.
But how about
I mean,
Stugotz, the reason I lost my Hall of Fame vote, which is the bias of them having the moralities to get everyone out of the Hall of Fame who might be close to steroids. So Barry Bonds isn't in your Hall of Fame and Pete Rose aren't in your Hall of Fame. It's not the same kind of bias, but it's a bias to attach your moralities to all this shit.
I'm pretty sure Roberto Alomar didn't get into the Hall of Fame till his second time around because people just didn't like him. And then the second time around, he got in with 90%. So it was the writers just making a point of keeping him out as a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I voted for Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds every year that they were on the ballot. I continue to vote for A-Rod. I don't necessarily give a lifetime sentence to the guys associated with steroids, depending on when it happened in their career and how they did afterward. Now, the one area that's tough is if there are off-field problems related to, criminal activity or alleged criminal activity.
It's a museum. It's a museum.
Meaning.
I don't care about your moralities.
Okay, but some
what were
do.
you as a baseball player?
Okay, that's.
Okay, but then you're biased too.
Well,
you're
it's his
biased.
vote, though.
That's fine. It is his vote. It used to be mine, but that's fine.
I got a question about, can Greg ever lose his vote other than doing some ostentatious stunt where he tries to sell the vote online?
I have no idea.
My father turned in his Heisman vote. I was very mad at him. Didn't even tell me. Just turned in his Heisman vote as
To
an
who?
act of conscience.
What,
Just back to the Heisman.
Well, maybe
Thought
he
should
didn't
have
do
given
it.
it to you?
No, I didn't think. I just was hoping he would keep it and continue voting.
Okay.
Well, what is that process? He called someone and he said, I'd like to hand you my vote,
He
please.
sent an email.
He did that?
Yes.
really?
Yeah, he sent an email. He resigned as a Heisman voter because he was no longer covering college football on television.
I would pay thousands of dollars to read that email because I just thought about how my dad emails and I'm like, oh my God, there's no way this is like
All right,
to
find
whom
it.
it may concern.
All right, fine. Go ahead and find. Call my mother here. Call my father and find out what the reporting on this.
I
is.
want Poppy to read the email if possible.
Oh my God! Sure. Let's see what we've got there. Let's go back out to Burbank, California, and now we've got the proper game show host in there, where Izzy Gutierrez. Izzy is going to join us and do the game showing. But do you have, Samson, something for us on what Greg Cody is alleging, that he's more qualified to vote on the Hall of Fame than Joe Torre?
Yeah, I just,
More independent.
Well, I just want to inform you, Greg, the reason for these committees is to really right the wrongs that are done by the writers for whatever their biases are. So these committees were formed in order to ensure that the plaque room in Cooperstown is properly represented the way baseball wants the plaque room to be represented. And when the writers do not follow and do what they're supposed to do, there's a cleanup process. And so that's what these committees do. They're in charge of cleanup.
There he is. Now time for the game show that is sweeping the nation. Is he human?
Is it?
Well, is he now? Is he?
Is it Gutierrez?
Izzy Gutierrez joins
Is it
us now.
Gutierrez?
Go ahead and take it from there, Izzy.
Thank you, Dan. We are further contributing to Jeremy Tachet's mental health issues. He was doing a fine job here. But, hey, you got me now. For the game, we're trying to figure out if this thing is human. By the way, I'm swimming in this jacket. Your name, David Samson, also sounds computer-generated. Like the son of Sam kind of sounds like a robot name. But anyway, next question.
Weird aside.
Do you feel music lyrics without the use of drugs?
Of course. I love songs. Chicago, Hard Habit to Break, Hard to Say I'm Sorry.
Sounds like a generated list that AI did, but we're going to go ahead with human on
This
that
is
one.
human.
You feel
Yeah.
human.
That was human. That's a
job, David.
legitimate human answer.
Proud of you. Good job, David.
David Samson feels
He
music.
loves love songs. Doesn't love his kids.
The Chicago. He doesn't know how to feel love, but he knows how to sing about it. Go ahead, Izzy.
All right, it's the NBA Finals. A player who just had 30 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists comes up to the podium, but he brings his 2-year-old child. Your thoughts?
I almost fired a manager for bringing his kids onto the dais of his press conference like it was some sort of nursery school. We have a job to do.
Yep.
And I was at the Heat game yesterday, and during the national anthem, there were a bunch of Heat players like holding their kids in their arms. I was worried about their backs hurting or something bad happening to them. Oh no, they were holding kids. I was watching this happen. I am quite against that. Do your job and then move on. Now, I've taken photos with my kids after press conferences, but you wait for the media to be done.
All right, we're back.
We get a ruling?
Yeah, not
human.
human.
No,
Yeah,
not
he's got
human
like
at all.
two answers that have proven humanity. The rest of them have disgraced him as a non-human. What else do you have, Izzy?
Okay, Rami Malek won a Primetime Emmy Award for his starring role in which TV show?
It's not the Menendez
not a
brothers.
trivia
It's
question.
not the Dahmer story. What is this a human question? I don't even understand.
Ooh, can I steal?
Follow-up question. Domo arigato.
Oh, I never watched Mr. Robot. I never watched it.
Robot judges?
Yes,
Yeah.
he. I don't know. That seems like a bad question.
It's like
It's
Wrong
a leading
game.
question. It's a leading question.
it's like when you're on a website and it says like
Yes.
pick every picture that has
A traffic light.
an
Yeah.
Emmy Award winner in it.
Okay,
the
let's do
robots
that
can't
then.
do it.
Can we do that? All right, first question. Holding doors open in public. This one's tricky because you're a bit of a germaphobe, right? But that also could be you just don't want germs for your computer system. So holding doors open in public, your thoughts?
I actually hold doors open for women, but say to them, is it okay if I do this? Because I don't want to look as though I'm doing something wrong.
You
But
say all of that?
Holy hell.
Yes, I actually do. And then in a door that goes like this, a revolving door, men are supposed to go first. So I will say, I'm going first because that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
You announce
'cause you
it.
Push it.
You say all these things? Not
Judges,
human.
ooh,
Not human.
sexist robot. Not just a robot, but a sexist robot.
Yeah,
I don't
overly
think
polite
that's sexist.
robot.
I'm being helpful. I told you guys the story of me in the elevator with women, and it happened yesterday at the Elser. And the woman was happy I said it.
Just don't say that, David. Just
Chris, now I'm going to bring this up again because she thanked me because we were getting out at the same floor, and then we made the same right turn where the rooms were, and I said, hey, my room is blank, and I am not following you. She said, thank you so much.
David, just go to the door first and walk out. My point is you're in the right. Your thought process is correct. Just don't say it. Just go to the front of the elevator and walk out first.
Ladies first, I'm a narrator.
One of the funny things that when John Amici gets on an elevator with a woman and she holds her bag too close to her chest, he will say to her, "If I wanted your bag, I'd just take it." But he's giant. He's 6'10", 300 pounds. David Samson gets off on a floor and they're like, "Where's his parents? Like, what happened?" They're not afraid that David Samson is following them to the room. They're afraid that
They'll kick his ass.
he's going to hide in their bag.
Dan, my move when people do that is to clutch my possessions. Like, I'm scared of you, too.
Izzy, let's close out Izzy Human. What else do you have?
All right, this is a tricky one because it's a difficult question for real humans, okay? Describe the flavor of Dr. Pepper.
It is syrupy.
Not a flavor.
It's got bubbles, and it's it makes me think of David Naughton.
Judges?
He can't taste.
Yeah, he lost taste during COVID, but how would you describe syrupy is not Dr. Pepper is like a sparkly root beer, isn't it? Like
Yes.
how would you describe what Dr. Pepper tastes like?
I'm going to steal this from comedian James Acaster. It tastes like a sexy battery. A sexy battery.
Okay. Thank you,
I like that.
Izzy. We'll see if we check in with you
I
again.
feel like Izzy's going off script.
That's okay. There was no script. It's one of the joys of Izzy Human, as it that was supposed to be hosted by Jeremy until we changed it. I wanted to
He was
play.
doing fine.
We've got a Bucks owner, a former Bucks owner, saying the following about college football. This is Mark Lasry, and he wants to basically buy teams, and college football seems to be open for business. Phil Knight got ahead of the game before everybody. He's in the Oregon press box as Nike's owner, and he's calling plays because many years ago he figured out that I could just run a program. It'll be a lot of fun. And it's part of why it is that Oregon has no preordained right to be at the top of college football. It was built by Nike. You should see their weight room. It's crazy how Oregon got into the game because Phil Knight's like, yeah, I got Nike money. I just want to own this program. Here is Mark Lasry talking about investing in college sports.
I think it's a phenomenal opportunity. And I think what you're going to see is you're going to see a number of schools selling their teams. And the reason for that...
To whom?
To folks like us. Like, we're bidding on a couple teams, I can't tell you. But in essence, what we would do is buy 51% of the team. And, I mean, I think if you look at a bunch of these programs, they're making 50, 100 million off of their football program, off of their basketball program. So it's a way for universities, by the way, because under federal law, they've got to offer scholarships in all these different sports. So they've got to update their facilities. So one of the things they want to do is sort of say, okay, great, my football program makes 100 million. We'll sell 50%, that's 50 million. Do a 10 multiple on that, 15 multiple, that's 500, 750 million. That'll come for them to sort of fix different things at the university. So you're going to start seeing more of that.
It's where we're headed, right? I mean, John Skipper, our CEO, has an investment in Unrivaled, and I'm watching these rich guys get into the game on stuff like this. Why wouldn't you try to buy a college program? It seems like where we're headed.
Yeah, and in many ways it can solve some of the issues of inequity within college sports because now you can take that money, as he's pointing out, and now you can spend it on all the other things rather than kind of be stuck in this place where the football program is all that matters and everything else kind of falls by the wayside.
Once you're getting into the game, Stugotz, where you're hiring Adrian Wojnarowski and Andrew Luck as middle managers, you're gonna eventually
you're not far off from ownership.
You're gonna have to eventually get to a space where the person atop your program is not a group of people. It's one person who knows how to milk your program for profit. David, what do you think about what's being said there?
Well, you wanted yesterday, there was a lot of talk, hey, we don't want a salary cap. Well, guess what? There's no salary cap in college football, and now they're going to act like professional teams. And forget NILs and where players are really free agents every year. You're going to have owners of teams come in and decide that they want their program to be the Yankees. And then that'll be the end of the conference system because teams won't want to share revenue with other teams in the Big 10 or the Big 18 or the Pac-2. No, they're going to want to maximize the revenue that they can get. It'll be a bunch of independents like Notre Dame doing TV deals. This sort of situation will change college sports and make it professional sports in a very Wild West way. It's coming.
But it might be better. I think of something, you know what it reminds me of? What he's talking about? Everyone's like, oh, you're going to buy Michigan or whatever. I think about Welcome to Wrexham. Bunch of rich guys go buy a bottom, down on its luck college program and say, you know, we're going to make Liberty the biggest college football program in the nation.
Yeah.
And at that point, what David is talking about is like Liberty plays in whatever, the SoCon or whatever. There's no money in that. We got to go on our own. We got to sell our own TV deal. We all got to make our own kind of independent deal. And I think that might be good. It's good. It spreads it out. It decentralizes it from the Power 5 schools and all the things that we complain about that Stugotz is all for. It was like, well, Alabama should be in the college playoff. We kind of get a little bit more parity across the nation.
We should buy FIU. We should buy that football program. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you. Dan, we have
Well,
to do this.
We'd have to bid against Pitbull.
And by
for
we,
it.
you have to do this. Yes.
FIU, make Ray Lewis the coach. The thing that I find most interesting about this, and I've told you before, David Sampson's Nothing Personal podcast covers sports business better than any I've heard, and what he does with Skipper and Pablo on the Sporting Class is the single best hour of sports business that I have ever heard anywhere. Not the Darren Ravel, I've never heard something that's got that much information in it.
You got to take out Darren Ravel, man.
No, I'm just saying whoever has been the standard bearer on sports business until now is being eclipsed by what they're doing on the Sporting Class. And one of the things that's interesting about what you're saying, we're all realizing in real time since the pandemic, are we not? With this Soto contract, with how undervalued the WNBA is, have we not all realized with NIL and everything else? Oh, shit, college football is the second biggest thing in American sports. And, of course, if Belichick and Andrew Luck are going over there to get away from professional sports, this thing is bigger than the XFL, bigger than the USFL. And, of course, the money is going to realize, wait a minute. I've got more money. I'll give you stability. How do I buy myself into ownership on what is the second biggest sport in America? Never mind Ryan Reynolds buying overseas. You can buy it right here. You could do, all you got to do is knock Texas's boosters out of the way. One booster has to want it more than all the other boosters so you can be what Oklahoma State. Who's that Pickens guy that just got Mike Gundy to take a pay cut in Oklahoma State because he lost every game in the conference?
His name is T. Boone Pickens.
That's right. T. Boone Pickens is going to be running every program in the country.
I'm surprised he's not.
A version of him.
There's never been a more perfect name for a booster than T. Boone Pickens.
Yeah, that's great.
David, how soon before all of this ends up happening? Like, we're in the middle of seismic change all around it. You got the left tackle for Colorado driving a Maybach. You've got just and you've just got Texas and Ohio State talking openly about $21 million rosters. Like, how soon before? Where does this change end?
Well, it's now that the players are the free agents and the players are getting paid. They're no longer students at all. They're not scholar athletes. They're just paid professional athletes. We're then going to get investment into programs, and that's the NIL. That's where you could get an investment by a private equity firm, a PE firm, venture capital, into a school. Then the next step is the ownership of a team within the school. I'm saying a decade because you've got to go through these stages, because once the conferences allow teams to take on private ownership of a specific sport, they are all of a sudden, all of them, all the commissioners out of jobs, all of the people running the conferences, the NCAA, they're all done. So they're going to make sure there's some time in between, I'm saying about 10 years, or about the end of this segment.
All right. Thank you, David. Get out of here. Let me just play some sound real quick for Cody and the rest of you of Syracuse coach Fran Brown here talking about a bowl game outside of the playoffs where he's saying our guys, they don't opt out on bowl games.
Kyle McCord.
Yep. Your quarterback.
I think he's playing. What you think?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
I think he's playing.
Do you know if he's playing?
He loves football. Do you love football?
I love watching it.
Are you asking me questions?
I'm trying.
Do you like asking questions?
I don't mind.
So I don't mind answering them. I think Kyle's playing, though. Kyle's playing football. If we're going to have a football game, Kyle McCord will play in the football game. Until the NCAA says Kyle can't play football anymore, then he'll stop playing college football and he'll go play on the next level. But whenever there's a football game, he'll be at it. If we called the game in 2 hours and we said we was about to have a game, Kyle will probably be the first one there to play football.
Has anybody opted out at this point?
Man, we don't opt out around here, man. We play football. We like the game. Like, we get to play football. The more football you play, the more the NFL watches.
It would be so great if Kyle didn't play in the game after that.
Great. That would be great.
I feel like this guy's like, I don't take showers thing has gone to his head.
Well,
now he's just like, this goes viral when I do stuff.
He's feeling good about himself.
He's just feeling himself right now.
He took a shower, though. He did.
That's another one of the big changes in college football. If you're Cam Ward, why would you play in the Pop-Tarts Bowl? Okay, your draft stock is rising. Why would you risk that in a second-tier bowl with a funny name.
I totally agree with you. Why would you do that? Think about that. There is so much money and your dreams, your professional dreams on the horizon. Why would you risk that for the Pop-Tart Bowl?
What about you made a commitment to a team?
No,
and you finished with the team.
You
It's
made a commitment to yourself.
I mean, like, I remember in playing rec league sports, if I wanted to stop playing, you're like, no, you made a commitment to this team, and you're not going to quit midseason. You're going to keep playing.
Okay, look, if UM is in the college football playoff right now, and Cam Ward says, I'm sorry, I'm not playing, that is a national scandal.
I'd be fine with that, too, by the way.
Okay, I don't think many people would be, but
CNN?
Everybody's got to agree with the Pop-Tarts Bowl.
Yes. I'd be fine with that, too, by the way. Anytime he wants to opt out on not being injured because he doesn't want to play football anymore because he's maximized his value in college, I'd be down with whatever that decision was.
But Greg is right. I think Christian McCaffrey made that decision many, many years ago, and people crushed him for
Yeah,
doing
but it wasn't a championship game. It wasn't as overt. I'd be curious if anyone would dare to opt out on one of these playoffs.
I think it was the Rose Bowl.
Also, how many times does that come up when people talk about Christian McCaffrey now? Nobody gives a shit.
Right.
That's my thing about any of these things. In the moment, yes, it might be a national scandal.
Right.
Guess what? 3 years away, 5 years away, nobody cares.
Does it not make any difference that Cam Ward made a lot of money this year? Like, he's already a millionaire. Like,
that does. That's something they have. That is new math, I would say, that I wasn't doing just now. Where, Cam Ward gave all of his offensive linemen expensive jewelry. Cam Ward made a lot of money this year.
Yeah, but we also don't know how much money Cam Ward saved for the future, and so
Yes, you're right about that.
I mean,
but if we're going to make all of this professional, this transactional, then, in my lifetime, Melvin Bratton and Willis McGahee are sort of the examples of getting hurt at the end. Willis McGahee still became a first-round pick, but Melvin Bratton lost what was career earnings that would have changed the life of his entire family for generations by playing in an extra game. This is one of the things. Everybody loves the playoffs so much. We're going to add 4 games to somebody's schedule. Like, we're going to...
Dan, they're playing to the end of January.
Like that part is crazy. As all of these people grab at the money, I'm not going to blame the labor for saying I'm going to protect my health over the money. But you're right when you're saying the transaction has become even more financial than it's ever been. If you're paying Cam Ward millions of dollars, you're probably entitled to ask him to play in the playoff games. You're not entitled to ask him to play in the Pop-Tart Bowl.
Well,
work every day, Monday through Friday, 11 to 2 Eastern, Samsung TV, Roku channel, Vizio Watch Free Plus, a bunch of others. You can watch the show on the DraftKings Network. Go to DraftKingsNetwork.com. You can also find our show on Peacock, the NBC Sports Fast channel, Monday to Friday, 12 to 3 Eastern, YouTube, and Max, of course, on podcasts, anywhere you get them, Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple, Sirius XM channel 85 as well. We've got breaking news here that I want to get to our experts on because we've got a lot of Miami Heat and basketball experts around here. Shams and Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald say that the Miami Heat are open to listening to trade offers for Jimmy Butler. He is open to playing for Dallas, Houston, and Golden State. According to Shams, the Heat are open to listening to offers for Butler and making a deal if the proposal is right. League sources told ESPN and Butler's agent, Bernie Lee, has indicated in league circles that Butler is open to destinations such as 2 of the Texas teams, Houston and Dallas, and Golden State. He's a native of Houston. He's believed to want to win right now. Among what's available, and Golden State is trying to get another star for Steph, that one makes a lot of sense, but I can't see Pat Riley making a trade that doesn't bring back someone who is better than Jimmy Butler, who makes his team better. I don't see Pat Riley playing for tomorrow's so that Jimmy Butler gets to win now. So what do you see from among the packages that Houston and Dallas and Golden State would have that would make Miami either the same or better than they are right now without Jimmy Butler?
Well, all the teams that would want to acquire him are looking at him as an upgrade, right? As a missing piece to take them over the top. So you're not going to give away a foundational piece for the piece that's going to take you over the top because that just moves you back. The thing that Miami has to face, we could say that Pat Riley never takes a step back or whatever, but the reality that they're facing is that Jimmy Butler can opt out after this season. And so you're risking use it or lose it. So basically, maybe they're not going to get a player that's better than Jimmy Butler, but I can see them making a deal to get players, giving us more depth, giving us more options and flexibility.
I'm assuming that a third team would have to be involved because I'm assuming that Pat Riley is going to be as win now as Jimmy Butler is and as Steph Curry is.
Look, they're not win now as it is, right? We can agree to that. Miami, right now, you're not going to win now, right? A deal can be done where it's not necessarily, hey, young guys, unproven guys, picks. A deal can be done where it's like, okay, we got a bunch of solid players to fill out our rotation, so we are still roughly in the same place as we were competitively. Maybe we got a couple assets on the side as well for the future. I think that is a possibility that's not a necessarily detonation, which is what Greg was asking. Don't they have to blow it up? I don't think they're going to blow it up, but I also don't think they're going to get a player as good as Jimmy Butler back in a deal right now.
It would have to involve a third team because
Even with a third team.
But none of those other teams are going to give up a player better than Jimmy Butler to get Jimmy Butler.
But I'm saying that even with a third team, I don't think you're going to get like this amazing player out of it. I just
But
don't.
Dan is thinking then the deal won't happen because Riley isn't playing for tomorrow.
It is
He's
a
not playing for the
depreciated, but it
future.
is a depreciated asset from this respect. It's a very expensive contract. It is expiring.
It's a time bomb.
It might expire if he decides to opt out. And he's 35 years old. Like I don't know how much you're getting for Jimmy Butler.
It's the worst kind of time bomb, by the way, because if it expires and you're still holding it, blows up, we could have got something for him, right? If he doesn't opt out, meaning you got another year, you got to pay him $52 million next year. And how many of us, raise your hands if you think he's going to be better next year than he is this year?
Let's go out to our heat temperature room here where Jeremy Taché, a failed game show host, joins us to give us the homerific perspective on the Miami Heat. What do you have? Certainly you don't agree that the Miami Heat are not in win-now mode, right? You don't agree with that, do you?
I think the Heat are pretty much always in win-now mode. The thing that's interesting is I don't think, Dan, that if a Jimmy Butler trade was made, that it would necessarily be to acquire another superstar right now. If you look at the teams, whether it's Golden State, Houston in particular, or Dallas, those teams would be sending back a variety of assets that my assumption would be the Heat would play through the rest of their season, giving some of these young guys, Jaime Jaquez would step right into the role that Jimmy Butler is playing offensively. They'd continue to have Bam and Tyler as those building blocks and then try to use all of those assets they acquire to make a move this offseason for another.
Oh, wow. You guys have
superstar.
them conceding the season.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen. I think there's also, when you look at Shams' report, there's a huge difference when you're looking at language in all of these reports between listening to offers and pursuing offers. And Houston and Dallas and Golden State are names we heard this offseason that, hey, Jimmy's open to being traded. Jimmy wants an extension. None of this is all that new in terms of the information that we already knew. It's just a matter of it being reported right now by Shams that's forcing us to have the conversation. Ironically, it's as the Heat are on their sort of best stretch of the season with wins in the last 3 games.
What Jeremy is saying is absolutely right. Listen to the verbiage, and the verbiage in these things matters every single time. The Heat are open to listening to offers for Butler and making a deal if the proposal is right. And then later on it says Bernie Lee has indicated in league circles that Butler is open to destinations such as the 2 Texas teams. So when you are talking like that, it isn't like Jeremy said, it isn't like an aggressive, we got to move this guy, we got to do something. It is, okay, it's not a, hey, absolutely not hang up the phone when you call asking about him.
I want more experienced veteran analysis. Izzy, what do you have here for us on what it is that we're talking about? Even though Jeremy has more information, he's got some other things that he wants to say. Greg Cody's contribution is to just drop his thermos.
I was like, what is
I wouldn't drop my thermos. What was that sound?
Izzy, what were you saying? What did you have to say about what we're talking about?
Yeah, I'm always here for you, Dan. I'm here to say what Jeremy doesn't really want to say. This is old news, man. This has been out there for a minute. We've already known that the Miami Heat they'd be silly not to do this. They'd be a terrible team not to do this, an organization not to do this. The guy has told you you he's going to be a free agent next year, you have to assess the situation. You have to see what teams are going to offer you. It doesn't mean that they're going to take anything. It also doesn't mean that they are not looking for other trades that don't involve Jimmy Butler, Dan. Other trades that would assure you they are in win-now mode. They're still assessing the situation. Their defense has looked a lot better. Amin told you that their offense has been in the top 10. They've basically switched and said, hey, if we're going to win, it's not going to be with 43s. It's going to be with defense that turns into offense. They're currently looking like that team that you don't want to face in a 7-game series. So nothing's been decided with Jimmy Butler, all due respect to Sean.
Jeremy, what you were saying I agree with, though. If you have Spo and Pat Riley, you ain't playing for tomorrow. And I don't even know if perhaps they should fold their hand, because the gulf is so big between where the Celtics are and where they are that I'm not even sure that it's the wise thing to do, but I don't see Spo and Riley playing for tomorrow's.
I don't think that they are playing for tomorrow. I think that when you're looking at this conversation, it's about what might happen come the trade deadline, right? Like, this doesn't mean that there's some sort of trade that's imminent. It's bringing up a conversation that those teams are interested in Jimmy Butler, that Bernie Lee has said, hey, he'd be open if he's going to get traded to those few teams, that the Heat are willing to listen. But this is more likely than not the type of saga that plays out right until the trade deadline. And there's a long way to go in this season. If the Heat are 10 games over 500, playing great basketball, looking like a contender in their conference, maybe outside of Boston, more likely than not, Jimmy Butler stays. But if this whole thing falls apart, he's playing poorly, the team's playing poorly, Tyler Hero isn't playing at the all-star level that he's been playing thus far this season, and everything looks like it's coming to an end, it'd probably be beneficial to both parties to move on with a couple of months left in the season and go from there.
You're not close to where Boston is. You're not.
No, I mean, but that's my point. When you're saying Pat's not going to do a deal, I said it may not be up to him, right? Like, at this point, you can either hold on to this thing and just peter your way back to the play-in and maybe give someone a run for their money in the first round, or you can be proactive and start doing something that can impact next season and the seasons beyond.
The current iteration of the Heat is going nowhere. It's spinning its wheels. It's not gaining ground on the rest of the East. It's a gulf from Boston. You have to do something. The time is now. You have to get something for Jimmy Butler. There's no question.
The time is now.
The time is absolutely
right now.
The time. Not right now, but before the trade deadline. Yeah, absolutely.
The time is now. Before February. The time is now.
Yes.
Right now, trade Jimmy Butler. Stronger than Izzy, stronger than Amin, stronger than Jeremy. Greg Cody.
You have to get something for him.
Greg Cody.
Something better.
Long time. Well, that's different. Long time Miami Herald columnist Greg Cody is saying the time is now. Trade Jimmy Butler.
You have to get something for him
before
he becomes a free agent.
Right now.
I don't know why you're emphasizing right now. Obviously,
you said it.
Obviously,
you said the time is now. I'm quoting you.
Okay, by the way, I didn't drop my thermos.
The time is now.
He didn't drop his thermos.
The time is before the trade deadline.
Before
is
it
opts
now?
Out
is
for
the
free
time
agency.
now, or is the time February?
Okay, I'm not going to contribute to your foolishness.
That a boy.
The time is now.
Let's do weekend observations, please.
It is time for Stugotz to share his game notes. No one in the media will tell you what happened better than my boy Stu.
Weekend observations brought to you by Miller Lite. Great taste, just 96 calories, available for delivery. You okay, Greg?
I love when he's
mad at
steaming.
you. He is so mad at you.
I'm always telling him when he's mad, it's funny. All you got to do is give him a pair of Wu-Tang shoes. He'll be fine.
Dan, this game is more than just a game. This game is a celebration of honor, service, and unity, played between two teams who will one day stand shoulder to shoulder in defense of this great nation. This game is so big, it gets its own weekend. Triple options, mutual respect, an iconic flyover that will send chills down your spine. And Dan, just like that, make no mistake about it, Army Navy is back.
He is so mad.
So mad.
What are you mad about? I'm just putting you down on, are you saying they need to trade him right now? And you were being slippery.
You kept repeating the phrase "right now."
Yeah, he did.
The time
Obviously,
is now.
obviously, by right now, I mean before the trade deadline, before he becomes a free agent, and they get zero for him.
But
if you have buyers for Jimmy Butler right now, explore it. Take the best deal. Get something now rather than nothing.
Right now.
Jack.
He's mad again.
Yeah.
He's not here for any of our foolishness.
No.
You guys are making this worse. You know that.
Right.
Thank you, Billy.
I mean, he
Or
has
better.
been
Well, Dan does know.
dead serious since we started talking about his Hall of Fame vote. Like, he has not had an unserious thought since then.
Well, the damn Veterans Committee is undoing his hard work.
Right. What's the point?
Let's get back to face rubbing. We're on video now, Dad. You can show us. We didn't get to see it in the pre-show.
Yeah, I'm not in the mood.
Yeah. You have to be in the mood to do it.
Yeah, you do.
Put it on the poll
can't
at
fake
Le
my
Batard
face
Show.
rubbing.
Do you have to be on the mood to rub your face?
You
The
do.
thing about a face
Yeah, I
rub
think,
is like
right.
you could be in a good mood and do the face rub because it's soothing, or like a bad mood.
It's
and you're
true.
like, I need a face rub.
You're right.
now.
It
Look,
can
Dan's
be,
doing it.
Yeah, it can be an expression of exasperation.
Yeah. Many moods.
See, that's an amateur face.
Yeah,
rub
I
that
know,
you're doing
that's-
right now.
Too much fingertips.
That's an amateur.
Yeah.
Wait, is it more palm?
He does it with he gets his whole hand in there.
You got to use
Show
both
us.
full hands.
Look,
There
we
he
got him
goes.
doing it. He said he wasn't
There
any
you
good,
go,
and now he's
sir.
doing it.
Right. Well, he
Wow.
sees someone who's not an expert.
He's like, I got it.
Right, you got to show him how. Show him the ropes.
I'm just learning.
Tariq Hill, good to see you again. Arch Manning wins that game. Army Navy, no losers, Dan, just winners. I still believe there's a chance for Alabama to get in.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju. Is there still a chance Alabama will surprise you and win the national championship?
I won't believe the committee didn't put Alabama in until those games start. I want to rub my face.
Feels pretty good.
If you bet on James Franklin in a big game, you have nobody but yourself to blame.
Well, who else would you blame if you were the one making the bet?
James Franklin.
Okay.
I mean, I do it all the time. I bet on James Franklin. He loses. I yell at James Franklin. I should be yelling at myself. That's all. It's my fault. I fell for it.
If you bet, put it on the poll, Juju. If you bet on James Franklin to win a big game, should you just start screaming at the mirror?
Good thing we spent 5 hours last week debating Alabama versus Miami for that final playoff spot.
Time well spent.
Jesus. If you have a quarterback whose last name is Manning and don't play the quarterback whose last name is Manning, you have no one but yourself to blame. I mean, what are you doing? There's a Manning on the roster.
Yeah.
Plays quarterback.
Yeah, that's right.
The witching hour in December, where good losses turn into bad wins and bad wins turn into good losses. How about that? Carolina Panthers, the hottest team on a 3-game losing streak in NFL history.
Carolina playing close games at this point in the season is a giant surprise.
Bryce Young has mastered the game-winning drive that doesn't actually win you the game. He leaves just enough time on the clock for the other quarterback to come out and get the victory. It's amazing. He wins while losing. He's unbelievable. They should surround him with some talents. I'm happy for Bryce Young, aren't you?
I am.
I mean,
he looks like someone who's more competent over the last 3 games than I ever thought he was going to look in an NFL uniform once they benched him.
The B in Boise State stands for bye. I can't watch a game on the blue turf for more than a minute without getting a headache.
Put it on the poll, Juju. Does
Yeah.
the blue turf give you a headache?
Army, winning the American Conference, poetic. Hey, Cowboys, just so we're clear, you're not America's team. Army is. Dan, you know what the A in Army stands for?
America's team.
Wow, you got it.
Yeah, that one was.
Wow.
You've been tricking me the last couple
I
of
know,
weeks. You've
I
been
know.
leading me. You've been.
I figured that's why you would guess something outlandish, and I was
Yeah.
going to come back and just say Army.
Yeah. You've thrown me off of my game by throwing that bait out there again and again the last couple of weeks just for me to get it wrong.
The committee should be embarrassed for leaving Army out. Ward Manuel should have to go to every single cadet's door to door, knock on their door, and tell them to their face, you're not good enough.
No thank you for your service is what he should have to do. Go
Ward
door to
Manuel.
door and say no
One
thank
loss
you for
Army
your
team.
service.
Texas, Georgia, the rare game with 2 backups who are better than the 2 starters. Dan, if you listen carefully, you can hear Bill Belichick sniffing around. He's got a big schnoz. Belichick's recruiting pitch would be to sit on your couch and very slowly put each of his 8 rings on while not saying a single word. I mean, 4 of those are Brady's. It doesn't matter. We digress, but that's what you do, right? If you're Belichick, just put them on.
His girlfriend followed UNC football on Instagram.
Oh, boy. It's over.
Jordan Hudson.
Done deal. A 72-year-old Bill Belichick. You can't fault Carolina for trying to get younger. Chapel Hill, more like Chapel Bill. If Belichick coaches Carolina, I fully expect Matt Castle to be the backup quarterback. Josh McDaniels, UNC offensive coordinator, collision course. The Chiefs can't keep getting away with it. If there's a way to win, the Chiefs will find it. Jameis Winston giveth, Jameis Winston taketh. Dan, that big sigh of relief you heard over the weekend was every team in the playoff realizing they don't have to do it against Alabama. I can't decide if I like a 12-team playoff. Losing a conference championship game is supposed to end your season. I didn't like it. I don't like championship weekend. I mean, the whole thing's a mess. I have no idea who's who, who's playing who, what team is in what conference. I have no idea. This is confusing. College football used to be easy. If you lose, lose early. Otherwise, don't lose at all.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Is change hard for old people? That's what's happening. You want college football the way that you used to have it, and now just you're too lazy to be bothered with where are people playing. Let me just check the internet. Things have changed, so now you're complaining about it. It's what old people do whenever when they're faced with change.
I like 4 teams. I do. I like when these games meant something. I like when Ohio State losing to Michigan would end Ohio State's season. Ohio State could still win a national championship.
That's right.
I don't like that. I mean, it doesn't count unless you beat Michigan.
They have made the regular season somewhat less interesting by having all the teams lose 2 and 3 times. Yes.
Thank you. You agree? All right.
This year, yes.
All right. If George Steinbrenner was alive, I can guarantee you one thing. Juan Soto would not be a New York Met.
Who would be out if we were still doing it as 4? Who would it be? Notre Dame at 5? Who's at 5?
Oh, Notre Dame's in.
Like who? If
Ohio State.
But who's at 5? Who's the 5 and the 12 matchup? Is what? If we were still doing 4, we would be eliminating everybody.
Well, Boise State wouldn't be in.
Would
because
Ohio
they're
State?
9.
But would Ohio State be in if we were doing?
So Georgia's in. They won the SEC championship game. Oregon's obviously in, right?
If you're doing the CFP rankings numerically, not by the seedings, it would be Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Penn State are the top 4 in the CFP, not based on the bracket.
So Ohio State wouldn't be in, even though they beat Penn State and
Right.
have the same record as Penn State.
Mm-hmm. Juan Soto, good luck without the short porch. Taylor. Juan Soto, have fun when it isn't Aaron Judge behind you anymore and it's Mark Ventios. Taylor.
Taylor's walking around with a North Carolina hoodie that he cut the sleeves off of, and he's dying for anyone to notice that he's doing like an homage to Bill Belichick.
He's going to break the story.
He literally came up to me and was like, look
yeah,
at my
he's
sweater.
telling people to look because no one's caught on to what he did.
Les Taylor.
The Mets committed more money to Juan Soto than the Pirates have to their entire roster over the last decade. It's amazing. Miami Dolphins, back in the mix. What do you think?
I saw the In the Hunt graphic, which I have to be careful about when I say it, in the
Wow,
hunt,
slowly.
and it's the Colts and the Dolphins. It's 6 and 7,
Woof.
Yep.
and the Colts have the easier schedule.
That's why the Broncos are in play. We'll get to that later.
But the Colts play the Broncos this weekend.
Yeah, but you want the Broncos to win that.
I don't
I'll
know.
tell you why later. No, you do know. I'm telling you, you know.
Well, you told me already.
He doesn't retain things, Billy. You tell them.
I was trying to play along with the show, man. I was
Yes.
trying to be a good teammate.
That's what you were doing. The Colts schedule is easier than the Dolphins schedule. I can't believe that all the Dolphins have to do is win against a Houston team that's on a bye to 14 weeks into the season, get to mediocrity. That's what this season was supposed to be about.
Quarterback missed 4 games. We've been over this.
You were so ready to pounce on them if they had lost to the Jets on Sunday the way they should have.
If you're trying to tank, it doesn't get much better than Drew Lock.
He's the only one in the league who could still throw up the 9 for 31, right?
He's your guy.
There's no one else playing quarterback who does that as well as Drew Lock does.
Tua is 6-0 versus the Jets. You know what that means, right, Dan? He has their number. Now that I'm thinking about it, Drew Lock should hold out. Drew Lock is as important to a team trying to tank as Joe Burrow is to a team trying to win. How about that? A tanking quarterback, a new position.
TQB.
Oh, man. 82 points in a Big Ten championship game just feels wrong.
It really
More
does.
punts.
It really does.
Here come the Bruins. I can't see Puka Nacua without singing Greg Cody's song. I can't.
Me neither. I thought I was the only one.
No. Kirby Smart, remember when you said everyone forgot about you and nobody believed in you. That was cute. Arizona State wins the Big 12, Oregon wins the Big 10, and yet the Pac-12 was the conference that got dismantled. Pittsburgh Steelers lead the NFL in grit. Taylor Heineke is a Charger. The Green Lizard. New York Jets, that's how you lose a game. Well done. Show me one person who thinks SMU would beat Alabama, and I'll show you a liar. No one thinks that. Juan Soto turned down $440 million only to sign for $765 million. You know what he did, Dano?
I do not.
He bet on himself.
I'm sorry, Amin knew that, and I didn't.
Wow.
I wish Amin had gotten in there. He had it. He was lip syncing.
I thought you were going to do
He was
it.
trying to cheat and give it to me, and I didn't read his lips correctly.
And he won. $765 million to hit a baseball. Holy hell. Speaking of hell, Art Briles. Dan, those are the weekend observations.
We've got a number of things to get to over the rest of the show. We have a guest that's joining us from The Masked Singer. We're not going to tell you who that is yet, but it's an athlete. And we're also going to talk about that story that everybody's been talking about, which is the murder in the street of the CEO of United Healthcare and the subsequent arrest of now an Ivy League student named Luigi. So we're going to talk to somebody who has done some of the reporting on this. And it felt a little bit seeing the internet sort of enjoy murder. It felt a bit like the movie Natural Born Killers, where the curiosity around trying to find out who would do this over the healthcare calamity that we have in America. And it is a calamity, Stugotz, because I will tell you, having spent 10 months every day in a hospital, that I really felt bad as I walked through sickness and death for all the people who can't afford what it is that's happening in those hospitals that is so unreasonably priced if you don't have insurance. So we are going to talk about that story in a little bit.
You're surprised that there's so much interest in this story because, like, Dateline, 2020, these shows get amazing ratings. People are intrigued by stuff like this.
I'm not surprised that there's this much interest. I'm not surprised by the craze around murder as content, which is just engulfing people. And I understand why this one is interesting to people. The part that I was a little bit surprised by is murder as a source, murder in the street as a source for jokes and a fascination around the murderer that makes it feel like the murderer is a celebrity the way that Woody Harrelson and Juliette Lewis were in Natural Born Killers. It feels a little dystopian.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's obviously the angst of people are feeling over healthcare prices, and this particular firm has denied more claims than any other as a percentage than any other of the healthcare firms. So there's that. There's also the overall desensitization that we have as a society towards tragedy. We're all running to the internet to make jokes. And then the fact that the alleged killer is both pretty handsome and has a name that's straight out of Central Casting. His name might as well be Spaghetti Lasagna.
Right.
What is the last name? It's Mangione? Luigi
Mangione.
Luigi Mangione.
Sam Morril had a very funny tweet where he had the picture of Tommy DeVito's agent, and he says, "Yes, I represent Luigi Mangione."
We will get to that story in a little bit, but I want to clear the room right now for a man who's got 14 sacks in a couple of seasons. He's got more than 100 tackles. The Rams can beat anybody. They showed you that on Sunday. And he's got an exceptional nickname, the Conductor, that I want to get to in a second. But off the field, he surprised. Billy, how surprised were you by this? You're a Masked Singer aficionado. How surprised were you by the Kobie Turner reveal as Goo?
Shocked. I was in shock and awe that Kobie was goo.
Okay.
Had no idea Kobie had goo in him.
All right, so Goo joins us now. Kobie, it is nice to see you. Take us through how you ended up on this show, why you ended up on this show, what your love of singing is, and through this whole story, please. And thank you again for joining us.
Yeah, no, I'm so excited to be here. So I have an incredible marketing agent, Clint, and he hit us up. I remember it's one day me and my fiance were just sitting on the couch here at home, and he texted us and he's like, "Would you guys like to be on The Masked Singer?" We're like, absolutely. And so we're calling him and we're like, what is going on right now? But so he kind of set up all of the details. Like you said, I've been singing for a very long time, really my whole life. And, I've done multiple a cappella groups, choirs. I've conducted, pieces. I've arranged songs. I've composed songs. So the whole nine. I performed different songs, and so music has always been a huge part of my life. And being able to be out here in California, it's been cool to continue to be able to have that be a part of my life. But yeah, it was just a crazy, crazy, crazy experience to be able to have that opportunity to be Goo. It really let out another side of myself. I have truly had a blast.
So you've had obviously many personal and career highlights. You got drafted in the NFL. You got cast on the shows. You were saying, where would you rank the feeling of in episode 6 of this season of The Masked Singer when you were about to be eliminated and reveal yourself, I guess, take off your mask? Where would you rank the feeling when you were about to take it off of Jenny hitting the ding dong keep it on bell to save you from elimination?
Yeah, no, it's up there. It's up there for sure. To just be able to, be on that stage, I felt like I had my best performance that night doing House of the Rising Sun. And
that's a good song. That's my go-to karaoke song. It's a good song.
It's awesome. It's awesome. And it fit in perfectly with 1960s Night. And then to be able to go and battle up against the Wasp, and I felt like it was a really, really close battle.
You beat the Wasp, honestly. Like I don't know what the judges were thinking that night that you were voted to go out. And thankfully, Jenny saved you with the ding dong keep it on bell. But I mean, you had a better performance than the Wasp.
I would say I agree as well. But you live and you learn, and you kind of just grow from it. But to be able to share the stage with the Wasp, he sounds like he's a really, really talented guy, and a guy who is probably really, really known in the music world. So to be able to share that stage, I remember we even had some fun moments. We were dancing at the commercial break, but to just know that I was able to stay another episode.
It's a ridiculous sentence. The whole thing is a ridiculous
sentence. Who's the Wasp?
Sentence.
Just tell us.
Yeah, just tell us. You said it's probably very well known.
He can't do that.
Tell us who it is.
You
know who the Wasp is.
He can't tell us who the Wasp is.
Just tell us. It's just us.
He can't tell us who the Wasp is. Look at the size of those hands. Look how small the coffee cup is.
I know.
I thought that was a thimble.
if that person were to slap you in the face, you would not wake up for a month.
Wake up in the past.
So where were your nerves on this? Because you're a singer, was this something that was all celebration for you? Just something that you were wandering around, how is this my life?
So a lot of it was to just be able to be in that moment. It was super cool. But definitely early on, I was some of the most nervous. I was nervous too as we kind of got going and as the competition started to ramp up. But really, it was just a matter of me figuring out how to move in that thing. I mean, every single step I took was like double the HP. So like I had no stamina whenever I had to move in that costume, but I loved it. And to be able to integrate that as a part of myself, to be able to integrate the movements that I had in that costume as a part of myself, and to figure out really how to sing. So there's some nerves, but really for me, to be able to just let it all out each and every night. Like I had to sing full out. A lot of times I'll try and, throw in some falsetto or throw in some mix or, figure out what I want to do with any given song. But with every single song, I kind of had to go full out because the costume is so heavy and so big that if I'm not going full out, something's going to crack or something's going to be super breathy. So it ended up just being this big moment of release because there's not many times in life where you can just sing full out, to have a full production behind you and just go for it and just have the time of your life. So for me, again, it was so much fun to just be there, to be able to share in all of those moments with my fiance. She's my number one support, and she's the most incredible person, the most incredible support system that I could ever ask for. And to just be there and take in all of those moments with her and to have so much fun, to get working with the crew that we had. And, Goo Team is a for life thing, man. Those moments that we shared and that we created was something incredible.
Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Is Goo Life a forever thing?
Kobie, that was all beautiful, but back to the Wasp for a second. Let's play a game that I like to call Buzz Off. So this is how it works. We're all going to guess who the Wasp is. And if we're right, you just do a buzz. You don't say yes or no, you just buzz. And if we're wrong, you tell us to buzz off, okay?
He's not going to do
Is
this.
it Frank Ocean? Frank Ocean.
He's not doing this.
I'm not losing my bread.
Tell us to buzz off. Tell us to buzz off. If it's not, buzz off.
You can tell Billy to buzz off too if you want.
Are you a love song guy with your fiance? Might you serenade her?
Oh yeah. I've written a bunch of songs about her too. I've wrote most of the songs that I've written when I was in college was about our long distance relationship because we were long distance for 6 years. High school sweethearts. I sing to her all the time. And then she can sing a little bit too when she's not too nervous. Sometimes I'll get a serenade myself. I'll play some piano for her, or I'll play some guitar, and just sit back and enjoy the moment of her singing to me. So we'll see. I'm trying to get her to sing to me at our wedding coming up, but I don't know if she's going for it.
Well, to put you on just the spot slightly, I don't know how comfortable you are with a cappella, but can we get a little something that your fiance might hear if Kobie is feeling particularly romantic?
There's so many different songs. There's this song that I wrote for her called Home that I can grab my guitar really fast. It's actually right here.
Do that. Is it Usher, though? Is it Usher?
Please stop.
Oh, no. That's a song that I wrote.
Please stop, Billy.
What did he say about Frankie Ocean, though? I didn't hear it.
Just please stop. He's not gonna want to lose his money. He's getting the guitar for us. Do you have something for him here, me?
Yeah, I was gonna ask if at his wedding, if he had gotten the Wasp to come sing, would the Wasp sing? Oh, I don't know. You Should Let Me Love You.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that possible?
We have no clue what the Wasp was singing, honestly. I think that we're gonna figure out what the Wasp is singing in a couple of weeks.
You ever wear the Goo costume in the bedroom?
Now we're talking.
You should. I don't have the costume with me. I
What?
wish I did.
Oh, no.
I know, to be able to wear those boots this past Sunday was crazy. But no, Goo is such a big guy. I couldn't even barely fit him through my door if I wanted to.
Wow.
Yeah, Jason Derulo?
Please
married
stop,
is good.
Billy. Please stop doing that. I appreciate it. Go ahead. Kobie has been fighting people for money all his life. You're not going to be able to trick him into him losing his money.
You're not getting me. You're not getting me.
Let's see what we've got here, Kobie, and thank you for partaking in our nonsense. I appreciate you doing this for us.
No, this is honestly so much fun. But yeah, this is a song I wrote called Home. I'll just do a little bit of it. Voice is kind of raw in the morning, but we'll see what comes out. So. Thinking of you every time I'm gone. Missing your skin on these nights alone. Life is a drive, you're my ride along. That's why I'm thinking of you every time I'm home. And then I'll skip around. So, they say home is where your heart is. Mine's been yours since when you came on your way. On that day I knew you'd be in my life. No, our love's not like those movies. We've got ups and downs and bruises, but I can see light at the end when I look in those eyes. So that's all you guys will get today.
We are swooning. We are swooning. We love you more than your fiance.
I want to marry you.
I love you.
Yes, I want to be held by those giant hands.
Tay Diggs.
You guys are awesome. Oh my gosh.
Kobie, thank you for being on with us. We appreciate the time and congratulations on all your success, sir.
Thank you. So good to be here.
Mario.
Stop it, Billy.
He was delightful. I erred in not asking him, hey, what was it like to chase Josh Allen around in your secondary and stuff? Like, I erred because we were too busy hypnotized by talking about the Masked Singer.
And we had to get to the bottom of who the Wasp is.
That's right. We almost did through all of your hard investigative work there
I
of
think
the
we
game.
named the Wasp.
The game Buzz Off. By the way, if you're listening to God Bless Football, and you should be, the growing and award-winning God Bless Football, Billy is making you tons of money with his bets. Billy keeps going 3-0 because, and not just 3-0, last night, everything cashed by the half. Like what Billy is giving you in terms of secret insider gambling information on God Bless Football is worthy of a DraftKings renewal.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, no, we 3-0 yesterday. Also, arguably 4-0, but one of them was a bonus one. It's not something you could actually bet on, and I bet that Noah Eagle was going to end up on one of those Netflix broadcasts. And sure enough, they announced that he was going to be on a Netflix game later that day. So I'm not counting that one towards the record, though. So that one doesn't count. 41-17 on the season, which is kind of crazy. Also, by the way, breaking news, and I can officially tell you now because it's out. God Bless Football was amongst some of the other Meadowlark shows that were nominated for the Sports Podcast Awards. So if you go to sportspodcastgroup.com, you can vote for us for best American football podcast, and we'd appreciate it. We didn't win last year. We won the 2 years previous to that, and there's a lot of competition this year, so we can use all the votes that we can get. So go to sportspodcastgroup.com, and you can vote there for us for Best American Football Podcast.
A lot of podcasts out there, including Greg Cody's show featuring Greg Cody, who is on this week's episode of your podcast. What are you excited about this week to bring the American public?
We have old but youthful-looking Dave Barry to talk about his holiday gift guide.
Pulitzer Prize winner Dave Barry. That holiday gift guide has been funny for 30 years.
It's a staple. It's wonderful. He always comes up with crazy gifts that are both horrifying and delightful at the same time.
And he's usually a great interview guest.
Yeah,
so
he's really good.
The Greg Cody Show featuring Greg Cody, wherever it is that you get your podcasts. We've got a number of things that I want to get to before the end of the show. We've got a Thursday Thunder that we're about to get to. Did any of you see what is happening? Today is Tuesday, so it wouldn't be a Thursday Thunder. It would be against the spread.
There we go.
Excuse
Completely
me.
different game.
Contract year. Did any of you see Mina and anything Simpsons related last night, because I didn't see anything. We have managed to blissfully avoid talking about two teams that have a great deal of relevance but aren't very good. And I was just watching the idea of people talking about, the Cowboys' playoff chances. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They've lost every home game they've played this year. Like, what are you talking about? I don't want to talk about that game. But what was Mina doing with the Simpsons? I saw that she said it was a career highlight, but I didn't see any of it and don't know what she was doing.
It was an alternate broadcast. So you have like the regular broadcast with Joe Buck, and then you have the Manning cast, and then last year they did a Toy Story broadcast, and this year there was a Simpsons broadcast, and Mina was on the call for the Simpsons broadcast. So she was, in a booth, and she was calling the game as the Simpsons character. Sometimes this is the way the game would work. So everybody was connected to the players that were going on. If you're looking at the screen watching us on video, you can see she was Simpsonized. So that's what Mina Kimes would look like as a Simpsons character. Dan Orlovsky was there as well. And then occasionally, while the plays were going on, they would drop in a Simpsons character. So like Bart would become the quarterback, who one time, a touchdown, spoiler alert if you're going to go back and watch the game as the Simpsons version of the game for some reason. Ralph scored a touchdown at one point in time. Lisa had a nice run where fire was coming out of her. So it was a fun time had by all, and they checked in with, Mina and Dan Orlovsky weren't the only ones that became Simpsons characters. They checked in with Stephen A. Smith, who was there as well as a Simpsons character at one point in time.
Did they get the look right on Mina? Because I felt like they scrubbed all of the ethnicity out of Mina. All of a sudden, you've got...
To be fair, none of them look... Like, I looked at the three people on the screen right there. It's supposed to be Mina, Dan Orlovsky, and I don't even know who the third person is. None of them look like any of the people they're supposed to be, so...
Awful.
All right, let's counter Simpsons.
It was not awful. It was good. I thought Mina did great.
Okay.
Greg looks like a Simpsons character. I feel like Simpsonizing you would be pretty easy.
Do you?
Yeah, because you got a look about you. You got a look.
Okay, yeah, all right. Whatever. I didn't think Mina looked Simpsonized. Did not flatter Mina. I didn't think. But I could be wrong.
I mean, it wasn't like a beauty pageant. It was, a football game.
I know.
I was once made into a DuckTale character.
Greg, how do you feel about the last 30 seconds of content you've given this show?
The last 30 seconds?
Yeah, you just sort of whimsically parasoled into the conversation and offered nothing.
Well, whimsy, apparently I offered, since I whimsically parasailed in. I mean, I don't know what I'm going to offer. You're talking about caricature. Simpson. Nobody looks good as a Simpson character.
Is this Stephen A. Smith? That can't be Stephen A. Smith. Come on.
That's Prince.
You got nothing but the you got nothing but the forehead right. You got nothing else right. Let's counter Simpsons programming with our own beefcake. Let's go out to Tony poolside. It is time for Tony's Top 5. Tony coming off a very successful weekend. MMA Hangout is becoming more and more popular. He is crushing it on Saturday nights around the fights. What do you have for us today for our Top 5 list on your football observations, Tony?
Dano, no OLI. As you can see, this is kind of a chill day today. We've had a long weekend. We had the amazing Sunday service brought to you by the boys at God Bless Football. We had MMA Hangout. We had Sunday Night Live last night. So a plethora of things that we got into this weekend. So today, chilling by the pool. No OLI. We're going to go straight top 5. Dano, you ready?
I am in just a second. I can say what I'm about to say and be accurate, right? There is no place in the United States where the temperature is as good as where Tony is right now, correct? California's cold in the morning. California can get cold. There is nothing in December like what Tony is doing right now for winter, which is it is lovely out there. It's beautiful out there. And Tony's ready to give you his football top 5.
Well, to be honest with you, Dan, it's not just Miami. In Arizona right now, it's about 75 degrees during the daytime. At night, it gets cold, but right now, I can sit by my pool.
That's fine. It does. In the morning at night, it gets cold in California and Arizona.
Virgin Islands are great now, too.
I said United States.
U.S. Virgin Islands.
Yeah. You didn't say British.
Yeah. Key West is pretty nice.
Contiguous, Dan.
South Florida, yes. Thank you. Go ahead. Number 5, Tony.
Number 5, Dano, I'm actually going to kick it out to you for a dealer's choice. Okay, Dan, you're my dealer. Here's the dealer's choice Coach of the Year update. I'm going to give you 3 names. Dan Campbell, Kevin O'Connell, Mike Tomlin. Dealer's choice. Who do you pick?
I guess I'd have to take Dan Campbell just because they're a historic laughing stock.
Oh, I got a different one. Jim Harbaugh.
Ooh, okay, Greg. Oh.
That's
so
not
your
dealer's
5th
choice.
observation is asking Dan who he thinks the Coach of the Year is?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Is
what
that a
happened.
problem?
That is number 4.
Number 4. Eagles keep winning, but there's trouble in paradise between number 1 and number 11. Dan, I don't know if you saw Brandon Graham yesterday said that there was a little bit of a situation going on in the relationship with QB1 and wide receiver 1. I don't like that.
He said more than that. He said that Jalen is trying and that AJ has to adjust parts of how he receives things. Like that was an unbelievable bit of dirty laundry to have. Is the guy who said that even playing, or is he injured?
I think he's injured.
I mean, you're coming off IR just to create a controversy for your team during an interview. That is not good work by that guy.
You're not even in the building.
Number 3.
Number 3, como coño. Okay, and Dan Le, you can translate for the audience. Como carajo tú puedes tocar la pelota on that punt? The punt got blocked, and you touch it trying to pick it up. What are you doing? Not only did you cost me money, you cost me fantasy position, you cost me everything, 27. Jerry Jones his hand was shaking at the booth when they panned over to Jerry during that situation. Dan, that's the stupidest thing I've seen in a long time.
How would you translate, Billy, como coño? How coño is an all-purpose Spanish.
Yeah.
Como coño, como carajo is easier.
Literally, there's multiple ways to translate como coño, because como could be how, and it can also be eat. Coño
Yes.
can be a number of things.
Spanish, a confusing language.
Yeah.
Greg, what can you tell us about last night's game and the stupidity that you saw at the end of it that conjured memories of Leon Lett on Thanksgiving?
It was awful, mainly because I had picked Dallas to win outright. I picked them for my upset of the week in the Miami Herald. I had it. Dallas should have won that game. How do you blow that on a punt? How do you not wind up with a ball after a blocked punt? I hadn't seen that in years. I don't know when's the last time I saw that. It was outrageous. Jerry Jones should have fired that guy right on the spot. He should have run. Whoever touched that ball, I don't recall his name. Jerry Jones should have run down from his suite onto the sideline, onto the field, and fired that man who caused that.
Mm-hmm. Number 2, Tony.
Number 2, Dan, he's not top 10 in passing yards. He's not top 5 in touchdowns thrown. But if you took Josh Allen off the Bills, they'd be 4-13. That tells me one thing, Dano.
You're going to make him
Tells
the
me
MVP.
one thing. Starts with 3 letters.
Yeah.
Sorry, exactly right. Thank you, Dan. MVP for Josh Allen. I think this is a record. I've named somebody the MVP in 5 straight weeks on Tony's Top 5.
Put it on the poll, please, at
Each one being
LeBatard
different.
Show. Does MVP start with 3 letters at LeBatard Show?
What does it end with?
Wow.
Number 1.
Number 1, Dan. Jags, Titans. I didn't think you would have this
can't
to
be
lead off
number
to be the
one.
number 1, but Jags, Titans, 10-6. The game being played in every TV, in every sports bar in hell. Speaking of hell, Dan, our Pryles. Those were Tony's top 5 for week 14. Every TV in every sports bar in hell is playing Jags Titans 10-6 with Mac Jones and Will Levis.
That one was a horror. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate your top 5. Brought to you by the haters. America has been consumed by this story. I have told you, Greg, that I'm darkly fascinated by America's fascination with documentaries about murder, podcasts about murder, and video here of what has been a story that everybody's been talking about, where a man named Luigi Mangione, an Ivy League student, murdered in cold blood like an assassin strike with a gun, allegedly, the CEO of United Healthcare, Brian Thompson. And a lot of people are viewing him as a bit of a vigilante on behalf of American outcries around the health industry. So we've got Dylan Scott on with us. He's a senior correspondent and editor for Vox. He's been covering global health for more than a decade, and his latest article is called The Deep Roots of Americans' Hatred of Their Healthcare System. Thank you, Dylan, for joining us. And I guess give us an overview from your vantage point of how it is that you've experienced this story that has grabbed America's interest.
Sure, Dan. Thanks for having me. And it has been a surreal few days. I've covered healthcare for more than 10 years, and this still feels kind of like the biggest moment on the beat in a lot of ways, and because largely of that public reaction that you described. It's been like yesterday. It has been sort of darkly humorous in a way. Like yesterday, when we learned his name was Luigi, I saw the anti-Italian memes and are those using Italian stereotypes. And I thought those, my wife's maiden name is Campanella, and they felt kind of absurd. And so it felt safe to laugh. But there's been this other tweet that I have been thinking about ever since I saw it over the weekend that kind of captures the like weird headspace that I find myself in. And this was after the backpack was found in Central Park with the Monopoly money in it. And it was before he was identified, obviously, and he was sort of at the height of his mystery and public appeal, if we want to call it that. And this tweet said, it's like, this guy is like cigarette smoking. He's not going to be good for us in the long term. But in the short term, he's making this look cool. And I feel like that kind of summed up the contradictory feelings that I've been both like picking up in the public response, but also been feeling myself. Because on the one hand, not to be a scold, but human life, I do believe human life is precious, and callousness about murder does make me uncomfortable. But on the other hand, as somebody who's covered healthcare for more than 10 years, I understand why people are so angry. I know the many ways that the healthcare system screws people over. And I know that the stakes are really high for people when they go through those experiences. Like if you're in a serious medical situation, that's one of the most, fraught moments of your life. So I've been trying to hold both of those ideas, and doing so uneasily in my head at the same time over the past few days.
Well, what do you make, though, of the idea that people seem to be rooting for this suspect pretty publicly? It's not okay, but is it understandable based on the reporting that you've been doing for a decade?
Yeah, I mean, it's not okay, but it is. I do understand it. I do think it's like, this in a way is connected to trends that are sort of beyond healthcare, in terms of like the crassness that we see in public life and in our society these days. And I do think like the internet makes us more comfortable, maybe saying things that we wouldn't want to say in like polite conversation. But in terms of the healthcare system itself, like, people have been screwed over by health insurers. And especially when you think back to the days before the Affordable Care Act, people were denied coverage just because they were sick, or they'd have medical, claims for serious medical services, and they would just be denied. And even today, after the ACA has been law, now for more than 10 years, and there are more protections, for example, for people with pre-existing conditions. Health insurers are still up to other hijinks. People just in general feel like the costs of healthcare are too high. And like the thing that I sit here thinking about is like, in a way, I'm not surprised that it was sort of a health insurance executive that was targeted, because I feel like health insurers are the easy villain in our very screwed up healthcare system, because it's sort of like, what do they do? But at the same time, I know, because I have been covering this for so long, that like everybody bears some of the blame, the pharmaceutical companies, even hospitals, even physicians, and certainly health insurers. And so like it's really complicated to untangle, and I don't know what we do with all this anger that people are feeling and sort of freely expressing after the shooting last week. But I do understand where it comes from, even if it makes me a little bit uncomfortable.
I'm curious, it seemed like we crossed the threshold here where I don't know if it was the CEO of any other type of Fortune 500 company that could have been murdered and would have the same kind of response that came out here. What impact do you think is going to happen on the health insurance industry as far as any changes because of their fear of, hey, look, the people are pissed. How pissed are they? Well, one of them murdered one of our guys, and the rest of them are like, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what's so like paradoxical about this moment, is it feels like yes, there's like something is happening. This sort of live nerve has been exposed, and we're having to kind of stare the damage that the broken healthcare system has done to our society in the face. But I don't know like what we do with that. We've got in terms of like policy, we've got a new administration, new Congress coming in next year. I'm sure they're going to look at things to do on healthcare policy. Are they going to propose big crackdowns on private health insurers, which like Republicans in general have generally been more favorable towards? I don't know. The conversations about how to change things in pharma and the hospital system are even more difficult. Like part of the reason I think health insurers, to your point, kind of get so much attention and so much vitriol is, like I said before, it's like, what do you guys really do? You're just like money, you're moving money around. You're not taking care of anybody. You're not creating new cures that are going to save people's lives.
It's a mafia. You've heard Bill Burr talk about this. It's a mafia. Like it's business corruption. Pharma bro is a symptom. Pharma bro is a feature, not a bug. When he becomes the most hated man on the internet for charging $750 for a pill that should be $5. Like, you can tell us all the appalling stories. What's the thing that scares you the most? What do you view as the worst of what these mafiosos do?
Right. And I mean, the one I've been fixated on lately is there has been recent reporting on health insurers using like AI-driven algorithms to figure out like how to deny people claims, basically, using all of the tools that are at their disposal that apparently this guy was familiar with, if you've seen the reporting about the words written on the bullets. And so, yeah, it is like, one thing that's really interesting if you look at like the polling data about people's experience with health insurance in the US is like, by and large, actually, and this does surprise me, Dan, I'll admit it, but it's true. Most people will basically say like they're mostly happy with their healthcare plan. But the catch is, you have to remember a lot of those people are probably not using their healthcare that much. They're going to the doctor once a year. Maybe they have like 1 or 2 prescriptions, but they're not really using healthcare that much. So for them, it's fine.
Oh, but Gallup found that the percentage of Americans who approve of their available healthcare is at an all-time low.
Totally. And people don't like this. People think the system is broken. They think the quality of healthcare is getting worse. But let me just follow. The catch, I think, is really interesting. And it's really to your point. It's that the more people use their healthcare, or health insurance, the higher their medical bills, the less satisfied that they are. So it's almost like there's a lot of us kind of living in a delusion that we have good health insurance, but until we try to use it. And then we experience all of the problems with it, and it's really frustrating. And it makes us angry. And I think that has created these attitudes where like people think the healthcare, it's only like 30% of the American public think the healthcare system overall is doing a good job. And yes, as you said, the number of people who think they're getting quality healthcare here in the United States is at an all-time low, which is a really shocking thing because for all of its problems, like if you can get good healthcare in the United States, you can get the best healthcare in the United States. And that has always been true, and it does continue to be true. But that caveat is sort of the whole problem, if you can get it. And too many people can't, and it's so expensive. And that's why we're seeing the reaction that we have.
It's up to the government to fix a broken healthcare system. But in the meantime, how about we don't commit cold-blooded murder against the guy heading a healthcare system? I hate any attempt to justify this murder on any level. Okay, even if you hate big pharma, even if you're being charged $500 for a pill that should cost 10, it doesn't justify this murder. And I hate any implication that it does. I guarantee you this, when the alleged murderer is up on trial, there's going to be no mitigating factor here. The jury's not going to say, well, he killed someone who was head of United Healthcare, so let's be light on him. That's not going to happen, and it shouldn't. And I apologize, that's not a question.
It really isn't, but it's a hell of a diatribe. I salute you. You have rarely had this kind of righteous indignation at the end of a show.
Well, because I'm hearing so much justification for this heinous, cold-blooded murder. No matter who the victim is, let's not justify it on any level.
And I totally agree with you. And that's been, if you read the piece I wrote last week, that was sort of my point. Like, there's not one person, there's not even one industry to blame for all of our problems.
I'll read it for you. I'll read it right now.
Collective failure.
There is not one man nor even one industry responsible for the failures of U.S. healthcare. The finger pointing is a distraction. Every party bears responsibility. The only way forward is to reckon with that collective failure. We need to begin working toward a more rational and just system if we are to have any hope of creating a world in which Thompson's shooting would be truly unimaginable. That's from your story on Vox.com. And I don't know what you find to be the most interesting details that people are finding shocking. Obviously, the cold-blooded mafia-ness of this, but it's also, these are not the identifying traits of someone who murders you in the street. It's whether you want to make Italian stereotype jokes or soprano memes or not, Luigi Mangione doesn't have the background that would suggest that he would do something like this. This seems like a person who is moral about who he's murdering. So I ask you, is he crazy? What are the details here worth examining?
That's a great question, Dan. And that is something I think, journalists struggle with anytime there's a shooting like this. And I'll confess, where I'm at right now is, yes, he's clearly like, he doesn't have the sort of typical profile exactly that you would expect of a shooter. But if I'm honest with myself, I try to remember, like, his mindset is always going to be a bit indecipherable to the rest of us. Like, even if we can sort of understand sort of his frustrations with the healthcare system, you're not having a normal day when you go out and shoot somebody in the middle of New York City. And so there is a point where I'm like, I don't know how much I care about his individual mindset. What is interesting to me is this public reaction and what it reveals about the failures of the healthcare system, about our frustrations with it. And yeah, I know we will piece, I'm sure, there may be a manifesto. People will obsess over that. And, it'll be interesting to hear the details if there was sort of like a specific situation that sort of sent him down this path. But I do try to step back and, remember, like, you're never going to totally get inside the head of somebody who did this. And so at a certain point, it's futile to even try. And it's better to sort of like reflect on what this is saying about us collectively as a whole.
Now, Dylan, one of the things I want to reflect on is that Cavs hoodie that you have on. The Cavs are off to a historic start this season, but
Yep.
they had a bad loss the other night in Miami, and Evan Mobley sprained an ankle, it looks like. What are your thoughts on where the Cavs are going to go this season?
I mean, I came into the season apprehensive. Like, last year, was it like you basically just checked the boxes? We got to the second round, looked okay against Boston, considering we were injured, but like that was it. So I was, the win streak to start the season, I was thrilled. It was awesome. I do think Mobley has like made a mini leap, at least on the offensive end. It's not like he's going to be an offensive engine, but if he's more competent, if he can hit those threes at a decent clip, and play make a little bit, like, that unlocks a whole new level for the team. And I will say, you guys will appreciate this, I think. Like, I know everybody's praising Kenny Atkinson. I am thrilled with Kenny Atkinson. But I do think, like, the fact that the defense has held up is a little bit of a credit to JB Bickerstaff. And,
has
like,
Mobley taken a mini leap, or is it a step, or has he turned the corner?
Just a step, I think.
Is it a hop? Is it a hop?
No, there's no hop.
It's not a mini leap.
It's not ridiculous.
Is it a jump?
See,
he's up a couple points per game.
Is it a jump? Is it a leap? Is it a step?
He's turned a corner. He has not
turned
taken a leap.
corner.
Dylan, this is my point about the Cavs. When everyone's going crazy about the start, I said, I think they can be better. And everyone said, how? They're already, amazing. I said, because Evan Mobley still hasn't taken that leap to be in.
He said he's taking a mini leap.
No,
a mini leap is just a step.
It's just a step.
Yeah.
It's just a step. It's the step in disguise. Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Is a mini leap just a step in disguise? Dylan, thank you for being on with us. We appreciate the time. We appreciate the information. At an advanced age, the greatest close of Greg Cody's career to a show when he has lacked some stamina at the end of these shows, because back in his day, murder was wrong.
Yeah.
Back in his day, it wasn't okay.
Murder.
To just celebrate somebody in the street killing somebody because you're down with the healthcare cause. And Greg Cody was indignant about it, and he's not here for your normalization
Started yelling
of it.
at Dylan.
And that's right. He was yelling at Dylan about the jokes being made at the internet. This guy's done 10 years of healthcare reporting. Greg Cody hasn't lifted a finger before this righteous indignation. And he was yelling at Dylan about the controversial take of murder's not okay.
He goes on this long spill, and then at the end he says, "And I know that's not a question." I'm like, well,
it was unbelievable. I was watching a great lawyer, undefeated in trial cases, prowl over a closing argument because he knows he's in the right with the controversial take.
Thank you.
Murder is wrong.
Yeah, well, that's not what I'm hearing from America right now. I'm hearing justification,
rationalization.
A lot of, on the other hand, a lot of people talking about, well, on this hand,
on
I
the
see
other
this.
hand,
On
one hand's a gun that murdered somebody. On the other hand, shut the fuck up.
That's why we have two hands.
Wow.
Good
That
point.
is true.
That is not why we have two hands.
For balance? Why do we have two hands?
It's not
to have another hand.
It's not for equilibrium. The equilibrium of one-handed people is just fine. They don't need the second hand.
That's true.
In order.
The fugitive only had one arm.
Whoa!
That was not the fugitive. That was That was who the fugitive was framed by.
Yeah,
That's true.
It wasn't
That's a good
me.
point by
It
you.
was the one-armed man.
I can't believe the strength with which Cody got out the controversial opinion of murder is bad.
That's right.
You know what?
That was Hulk Hogan a little bit.
Well,
Like, come on, people.
But I'm not even sure. Look, man, we have normalized this. Whether you're watching documentaries like The Jinx or just there's just been a proliferation of cult and murder documentaries, and murder as a business right now is booming. As a content play, like go look at the top 100 podcasts. It's all sports, comedy, a little bit of self-help, and murder. Just murder sprayed all over the place. People can't get enough in and out of their cars of consuming this, and this one captivated everybody, at least in part. Because there are murders in cold blood every day on the street. This one because of the story behind it, because of what Cody's talking about, the rationalizations around, healthcare is bad, so let me shoot this dude in the street.
Right.
I mean, I was curious. We'll get to Juju in a second, but I'm really interested in this Jamie Foxx special that's going to come out on Netflix today. I think it's December 10th, and I've been looking forward to it for a number of reasons. First of all, I think he's as talented as anyone in Hollywood. The range that man has as a comedian, an impersonator, actor, stand-up, everything, singing, like it's just unbelievable the talent that he is. And he almost died, and we haven't really heard very much about the details. Like we've heard some things from his daughter, and there are a lot of whispers around everything involving Diddy and allegations, and he's going to address it artistically, and I'm looking forward to whatever that looks like because he's so creative. Are you looking forward to this?
Absolutely. Jamie Foxx is, first of all, he is the single most talented person in Hollywood because everything he does at an elite level that matches and mirrors the elites that do it. Singing, he sings just as well as the best singers. Actors, he acts just as well as the best actors. Comedians, he's just as funny as the best comedians. Impressions, sketch comedy. Where you go back to In Living Color, he knocks it all. Sitcoms, his sitcom was incredible. Every endeavor he undertakes, he does at an excellent level. And I actually have a mutual friend. So I don't know Jimmy Foxx. I don't know him. I've never met him. But I have a mutual friend who said basically that one of the driving things that kept him alive when he was literally on his deathbed is I want to be funny. I want to crack some jokes about this. This is awful what's happening to me, but also it's kind of funny. Someone's got to hear these jokes. So that was kind of like his survival instinct kicking in. And so I'm very interested to hear this stand-up. And he's such a great storyteller, Dan, that I don't even know or care if whatever the Diddy involvement is real or just art. I know it's going to be funny and well done. In the same way, when he tells a story about shooting Any Given Sunday, and he's with LL Cool J, and he's like, I think he's not acting. I think he actually thinks this is real, you know. So I'm looking forward to his spin on whatever happened.
Let's catch up here with Juju Gotti. Look at how happy Greg Cody is as soon as he sees Juju Gotti, and the feeling is mutual. It's you look at you.
Well,
look how happy Greg Cody looks.
Yeah, but I wasn't that happy last night when Juju and I were playing each other in our fantasy football league. Not that you want to hear about fantasy football, but Juju scored got about 1,004 points out of Jamar Chase to kick my ass, but I love him anyway.
Thank you, brother. I love you more.
All right.
Sorry about that. It wasn't personal.
No problem.
Playoffs are. We are number 1 and number 2 in the league, so
That's
we
true.
got a lot of weeks ahead of us.
Okay.
Nothing personal with David Samson.
Yes,
Juju,
sir.
what did you like and dislike about the show today? What kind of takes are you bringing around here? And do you have any commentary on what we were saying about Jamie Foxx? Because I am looking forward to seeing this. I imagine there will be a lot of creative funny in how there's just a lot of shit swirling around Jamie Foxx. He was pretty close to death, and nobody's talked to him about the details of that.
Right, yeah, I'm excited to see it. I started it last night, but I couldn't stay up. You know, you get excited. The games go so late. I remember back in the days, Greg Cody did it back in my day when games used to start around 7 o'clock or so. Like, it's umpteen o'clock in the morning, and Jamar Chase is still on set with Scott Van Pelt. So it's, like, ridiculous. But I do echo the sentiment of Amin. Like, he's so talented at everything. He can be your specific role model if you just are one of those things. He's just as good, like actor, singer, comedian, just businessman at this point. Great family. I would like to hear some of these thoughts though, because like to tie in the show and what Amin said, like just what Greg Cody had just mentioned to the brother about celebrating the killers around the world right now with the Luigi guy going on. I think comedians sometimes they should sometimes give us more of them, like off of Bassett, off of a bit, because like he said, I don't know what's true with him and Diddy. I kind of would like to know, and I kind of would like to know certain things. He doesn't have a responsibility to me at all. Not saying this about Jamie Foxx. I'm just talking about the comedians, the Andrew Schultzes of the world, and people who say, oh, that offensive thing or that offensive whatever I did, it was a bit. Come on. Like, I would like to hear from these comedians in more sitting down segments or settings just so I can know how they feel about the actual things.
So I will tell you that Lewis Black was in here yesterday to do a South Beach session, and one of the things that's just super interesting about what all of these guys do is it's almost always a costume. Like Andrew Dice Clay didn't understand how people didn't get that he was playing a character. He thought that the character gave him immunity, that he thought that everyone understood, look, it's not me, the person who's doing this. This is an actor coming out here to make you laugh, playing a character. Comedians think that we should understand that, and Juju's asking for something underneath. Hey, Jamie, can you tell us the truth about this so we don't have to guess about what's real?
Yeah, look, Andrew Dice Clay became the character. That's the big difference there. He wasn't just playing a character. At some point, it absorbed everything that he was, and he ceased to be whatever his actual given name is. But for most comedians, their expectation is you paid money to be entertained. I walk on the stage and I entertain you, or I record this podcast. We're entertaining you. I listen to the Bad Friends podcast with Bobby Lee and Andrew Santino. If you took everything at surface value, you'd think that these two are the most prejudiced, racist people who hate each other. But the understanding is they're comedians and they're making jokes and they don't really believe any of these things. I'm friends with Andrew Schultz. I know when he's messing around because I'm like,
oh, wait a minute. Friends with Andrew Schultz.
Okay. Before you get there, I think that.
My bad.
Friends with Andrew Schultz. My bad. Go ahead, Juju.
Oh, yeah. I think that he falls under more of the alignment of what I'm saying more, because he says like white men grow beards so they can cover the fact that they're getting beat up by their black girlfriends. It's just certain things that if you're not a fan and if you're not a friend of these people in the society we live in today, where cancel culture is real and like it's a lot going on, I just would love to be like, oh, I can differentiate when he's playing or not, just because some of the stuff is so offensive. And I'm not saying like I'm not understanding of those comedians. I like Big J. Okerson. I like Rob Kelly. I like a lot of the people who told the line, even the Rattlesnake Louis J. Gomez. People that have the terrible Dan Soder, bad dark comedy, but at the same time, I know that there's a line and somewhere within here I could tell. You know what I mean? Sorry about that.
$5.
Yep. Well, we don't do that. We don't do that anymore. Apparently, this happened behind my back. You just gave up. You're soft like Adam Silver.
We're working on getting a new fine bucket that's different and improved and legislated better. Before we get out of here, Juju, what from the show today did people find objectionable? What did they like? What's worth revisiting?
I got one or two from the show that was worthy enough, but I want to throw in with the amount of bullying that we do to Jeremy Taché and Taylor on camera, I think we should make sure that when these cameras go off and the lights go down, we do enough positive affirmations to those brothers and enough picking back up of those pieces, because some of those things we say to them, it's us. We go cut the cameras off or whatever, but I'm running the social media. There are lingering effects that happen to those brothers on social media that live beyond our segments. So I think that if you out there listening to this right now, and you love Jeremy Taché, send him a message, bro. Like, listeners of the show, send Taylor a message, bro, because them boys work hard, for real. So I don't want them just to be the butt of the joke all the time. They put a lot of hard work on this, and they take themselves real serious, and I do too.
Wait, you mean to tell me that we're acting here too? That these things aren't all genuine
No, I'm
interactions?
saying... No, that's what I'm saying. People, you're acting, but what I'm saying is the bullying that comes online, I've experienced it, and I know how it feels. So sometimes when you're not prepared for that, no matter if you're acting or not, this stuff is following these brothers on Saturdays.
No, I get it. I was mocking anyone who listens to the show who thinks everything is 100% real and how we are, and everyone hates.
It is.
You know.
It is, and you need to get out of here. It is. It's all real. It's all real. Give me my board here. My board's not working, Chris. You got to do your executive producer job. When I hit something, you got to. Thank you.
Major penalty, 5 minutes. Swooning comedy.
Yeah, get out of here. It's all real. It's not any bit. Get out of here. Get out of here. Your job is in jeopardy. Juju.
Also, from our listener, congratulations to Brandon Vega, 89, one of our dedicated listeners. Before the season started, he bet that the Jets would miss the playoffs, and my big brother, he has cashed in. Salute to you, sir. Also, before we get out of here, I feel like if I'm not going to say it to somebody, somebody should say it to my brother Ryan Clark. I love you. I'm a big fan of your work, big bro. Keep doing your thing. But those suits that you're getting tailored and that brooch that you got going on, big bro.
thing, the little thing on his.
My goodness, my God. Like, let's just workshop some of these stuff in front of your friends before we trot them out in front of millions. Salute, though. I love you.
Juju, thank you for being on with us. Do I have this right, though? You just saluted somebody for winning a bet?
I salute it. Winning one bet, you feel me?
All right. Contract year with DraftKings. We are gonna celebrate individual bets won by individual listeners, one by one. The rest
and
of
Billy
the year.
and Billy's big board. Billy's big board, 3 for 3.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
God.
He's done it twice in a row, 2 weeks in a row. Thank you, Juju.
Thank y'all.